sergeants, if you would please call the members and have them report to the council chambers. Sergeants, please call the members, have them report to the members, and give me their Good morning. It's Wednesday, October 24th, and I'd like to welcome you to Los Angeles City Hall. The City Council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. The public is welcome. Mr. Clerk? Mr. Clerk, I believe we have a quorum. Could you please call the roll?
Alarcon, Buscaino, Cardenas, Englander, Garcetti, Weezer, Koretz, Krikorian, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Zine, Wesson, 12 members present and a quorum. Mr. President.
First order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Cardenas moves, Buscaino seconds. Next.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Reyes moves, Zine seconds. Next.
Mr. President, before getting into the agenda, there's been a request to continue item 21 to November 20th. Again, item 21 to November 20th.
Without objection.
Very good. Item 1 is an item notice for public hearing. However, the Office of Finance recommends that council receive and file this matter inasmuch as it has been resolved.
Okay, without objection, that'll be the order. 2 through 21.
Mr. President, I'm sorry. I've just been informed that a card has come in for item number 1. It is an item noticed for public hearing.
Okay, so then we'll hold
Very good.
item 1. Let's go to the next section.
Items 2 through 21 are items for which public hearings have been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Without objection. Members' specials. Mr. Zine.
7, please.
Item 7 for
Thank
Mr.
you.
Zine. And you said that we have had a hearing. So members,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Garcetti, 8. He wants to continue item 8 for 30 days.
That would be December 4 due to the Thanksgiving holiday and the National League of Cities.
Mr.
December 4?
Garcetti, you're fine with that? December 4th? Because of the holidays? Okay. All right. So let's prepare to vote on the remaining items. Let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, let's go to the next section.
Mr. President,
Cardenas?
items 22 through 29 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, without objection, those items are before us. Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Item 22 for amendments.
Okay, item 22 for Mr. Cardenas. Any other specials, members? Do we have cards? Do we have cards from the public?
Yes, sir, we do. We have cards on item 20, 24, and 25, and 27.
Okay, so let's prepare to vote, Madam Clerk. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That brings us where?
That brings us to the items 30 through 32. They're items scheduled for closed session. Would you like to hold them on the desk?
I will speak with Mr. Krikorian first and seek his counsel on this. Mr. Krikorian?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Items 30 and 31, Budget and Finance concurred with the recommendation of the City Attorney, and those can be disposed of in open session unless members have questions or concerns. Number 32 should be heard in closed session.
Okay, so let's deal with those two items. Are there cards?
On 30 and 31, there are no cards, sir.
Okay. Now, Clerk, do you have to read, if you'd please read into the record?
Yes, sir. For item 30, in the case entitled Lawrence Teets versus City of Los Angeles, there is a recommendation to expend $475,000 in settlement. And in item 31, in the case entitled April Boyd Plants versus City of Los Angeles, there is a recommendation to expend $1 million in settlement.
Okay, questions? Let's prepare to vote on these items. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, Mr. City Attorney, we continued an item from yesterday. Which one is that item?
Mr. President, two items were continued from yesterday. We have item 33 and item 34. Item 34 is an item that is scheduled for closed session.
Is that the one that we were going to hear yesterday?
Yes, both were on the agenda for yesterday, both 33 and 34.
Okay. So now that brings us where?
Council President?
Oh, wait a minute. Mr. Reyes.
Council President, if I may, on 33, if I would like to withhold unanimous consent on 33.
Without objection.
Mr. President, if you'd like to take up 33, if I may, it is an item for which public hearing has not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Mr. City Attorney, didn't we have
My understanding, there was a hearing yesterday, and so it doesn't need to have a vote on consideration. To the clerk's point. And then regarding Mr. Reyes's, regarding Mr. Reyes, he made a his request for unanimous consent, and so that kicks it over to next Wednesday for second reading. It does not foreclose council debate on it today, but it does indicate that the matter will be held over to next Wednesday for second reading pursuant to Council Rule 39.
Mr. Parks.
I'd just like a clarification. If when it moves for 1 week, does it change the 12 votes?
Not in this case because it's a Government Code Section 65858 ICO urgency ordinance where 12 is required on each reading.
Thank you.
Yeah, the threshold does not change. Okay, let's move on, Mr. Clerk.
Very good, sir. Item 34 is an item scheduled for closed session. Would you like to hold it on the desk?
Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, that's the continuation of the item that was to be considered in closed session yesterday, and it should be in closed session today.
Fine, that's fine. Yes, Mr. Englander.
Yeah, I'd ask if we could reconsider two items, items 2 and 19. And 19 on the reconsideration, I'm going to ask that it be continued to November 14th per the applicant.
Okay, so let's go to 19. We'll have a vote on reconsideration. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, and what was that date you wanted to continue it to?
November 14th.
Mr. Clerk, do you have that?
Yes, that's 3 weeks, sir.
Okay, and the other item?
Item 2, if we can just reconsider that as well.
Okay, on item 2, we're voting on reconsideration. Let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
All right, Mr. Koretz.
Not at the board.
Mr. Koretz is present and has been. If we can put him on the board.
And on the vote, please.
Okay, where does that leave us, Mr. Clerk?
Mr. President, it takes council back to presentations. Item called special or public comment for items not on council's agenda.
Okay, let's see if Mr. Garcetti is Mr. Garcetti. In fact, are you ready for your presentation? Mr. Rosendahl has arrived. Let's give Bill a round of applause. Good to see you, Mr. Rosendahl. Okay, but Mr. Garcetti, before you start, we're going to reconsider a couple of items. Item 3, if we could, we're going to vote on reconsideration. If we could open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
And item 27, if we can vote to reconsider that item as well, let's open the roll.
27 we just wanted.
Okay, then 27 we need to continue to Friday. I thought we had already voted on it. So 27 will be continued to this Friday.
And,
okay.
Mr. President, Friday is October 26th.
Thank you. Mr. Garcetti, are you ready? Okay, let me see if Ms. Perry, are you ready for your presentation? Or would you like to wait?
Folks in here are the folks from Route Down LA inside? You're here. Good. Okay. Yeah.
So, Ms. Perry, you have the floor.
You want to put this up here so people can see it? Okay. think they can see it. Yeah, there we go. Here, stand next to me. You're going to have to hold it anyway. Okay. I'm here with members of Root Down LA, Shara Prophet, who's the program director. Is Megan Hansen here?
Megan's not here today.
Okay, Ray Serrano. Ray Serrano. This is Ray Serrano, who built Sparky, the dragon oven. And then one more person. What's your name?
George Sabo.
Okay, great. Thank you. So as many of you know, the mayor's office hosted a commemoration of Food Day here in Los Angeles as an effort to participate in a national movement for better health and healthy food access. It's only fitting that on this day we welcome and recognize Root Down, an organization that has been operating in South Los Angeles and does grassroots community work with young people living in South Los Angeles focused on food, gardening, and healthy living. They are truly a grassroots organization, literally replacing grass with food and planting gardens in our community. Through their work, they are supporting the positive growth of young people by empowering them to become advocates and leaders in their own right. For the past 4 years, Root Down LA has been addressing the issue of obesity and related health issues in South Los Angeles by first convincing high school young people to eat their vegetables and then engaging them in educational experiences and skills training necessary to build healthier food communities. They partner with community and schools to carry out their work and commitment to creating a healthier local food system and create community spaces where people can grow, cook, eat, and share their recipes. For that's how you support a movement. Now, Root Down's simple yet, I'd say, revolutionary approach to nutrition includes over 30 nutrition tastings and demonstrations, reaching over 400 children and adults in the South Los Angeles community this year alone. Shara Prophet, who's here today, represents Root Down LA and is the program's manager and oversees their youth staff. The program is about healthy young people and breaking those common myths that healthy food is flavorless, too expensive, or too time-consuming to prepare. They've created nutrition, cooking, and food systems lessons, and they're relevant and actionable for today's populations. And as much as the food movement is doing, this program is building a demand for healthy food. They currently have 3 youth leaders who mobilize other young people at Jefferson High School, at Augustus Hawkins Nature Park, Nuevo South, Fred Roberts Park, A Place Called Home, and Ozabi's Money Savers Meats. Root Down LA takes a holistic approach to nutrition by planting gardens, offering cooking demos, tastings, promoting nutrition education, offering compost pickups, and sponsoring community barbecues with Ray and his Dragon Oven. Now, Ray's the other person I'm recognizing here today. His work with local community organizations like Root Down LA and countless others have inspired people to think outside of the box and be creative. This is his Dragon Oven. It's called Sparky. It's not only a work of art by design and function, but it is a community icon at potlucks and barbecues, demonstrating how a low-fuel oven can cook local food. Ray ingeniously built a rocket stove beneath the oven, allowing it to heat up with only a few dry twigs of reclaimed or reclaimed wood, and it's a carbon neutral process. Through this effort, he's sustaining our city's effort to promote good food and sustainability. Sparky is the world's first mobile, eco-friendly Dragon Oven made from recycled and reclaimed materials. The bamboo ribbing of her wings to the ornate oven door from the 1800s, she's going around the city with Ray and cooking up locally grown fresh food. Ray teaches young people skills and methods to be sustainable in an ever-changing environment. And when residents of Los Angeles feel connected to a community where healthy, great-tasting food is valued, readily available, they're going to eat it. So thank you both for the work that you do in Los Angeles. And if you'd like to say a few quick words, Cheryl, and then Ray.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for having us here today. Ms. Perry, we really appreciate this certificate that you're giving us today, and this is just further confirmation that we're doing great work and we're going to continue to do that. So thank you all.
Anyway, we live in the best place in the world to grow food. We have the largest waste stream in the world that I've tapped into, and I'm using permaculture to solve every problem about growing healthy food for everyone. I've done that in the form of a dragon, and now what I've done is I've made a tower to the stars. This is actually a rooftop Segway that will actually green the roofs and cool down our city, and at the same time give healthy organic food. And Bill Rosenthal over there, you came to my Eco Wonderland in Bar Vista and you saw what we were planning. And I just want to let you guys know that regardless of what I say today, we will ultimately do this to have every city in Los Angeles, because there's no city like Los Angeles right now to bring economy and green jobs. And I am totally excited. If you can't tell, come and I'll give you some of the information on this. I'm actually doing a Kickstarter video, and if you could find donators, we can start it here in LA, and then we have 2-story buildings that we can start greening right away, and this could be on south-facing walls so that we could cool down and have less fuel spent on cooling and heating, and also a fire escape. I have 35 different reasons.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Okay, Mr. Clerk, as we're waiting for Mr. Garcetti, I'll quickly move to Mr. Cardenas and item 22. That's the right item, Mr. Cardenas. Item 22 then is now before us.
Thank you very much. Do you have any public comment cards, sir?
I think we have
if
one.
We do, if we can go that first, and then I'd like the representative from CATS and
Mr. Sachs, Arnold Sachs,
Chief
please
Villegas
come
to
forward. Arnold Sachs on item 22.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. Garcetti's going first?
No, Mr. Sachs. No, I didn't know you were ready. No, Mr. Sachs, come on.
No, I don't take anything you say personally. Yes, thank you. Good morning, Arnold Sachs. Very quickly about this item, because of the budget problems that LA is facing, the Los Angeles Department of Water Power, this is a facility owned by the Los Angeles Department of Water Power. So I'm just curious to know that instead of making the transfer that DWP normally makes to the budget, what would be the taxes paid to the city, the property taxes paid on this facility by DWP? And all the other facilities that DWP owns, what would be the differential between the transfer DWP makes and the taxes they make? And remember, I believe it's the Department of Water that makes the transfer, and it's the Department of Power that makes the transfers, and not the water agency. So, if this is owned by water or power, that's also important, because if power is making the transfer and water isn't, and this property is water property, why aren't they paying taxes?
Thank you. Mr. Cardenas?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, every once in a while, our city is blessed with organizations that are really doing work that without them, people would suffer tremendously. So please don't be confused. Although we all love animals, this organization, CATS, Center for Assault Treatment Services, really isn't about the animal, the cat. It's about treatment services for people who are victims of rape and incest, and they are a not-for-profit organization, and I think it's appropriate that we give them the opportunity to continue in the San Fernando Valley, although they serve beyond the San Fernando Valley, and probably better to explain some of what they do and why it's so critical and important that we assist them and continue to operate would be Chief Villegas, who's here, and then also we have representatives from the organization CATS. Chief, can you describe to us briefly what the interaction is between LAPD and this not-for-profit organization?
I can. What I'd like to do, though, if I can, council members, briefly talk a little bit about
Please.
what the Valley Trauma Center does, what the Center for Assault Treatment does, and then what the relationship and the dynamic in terms of our investigative piece. And for that, I brought with me Kim Roth. She's the Executive Director of the Valley Trauma Center. After she speaks briefly, I'd like to have Kathy Adams, who's the Clinical Director of the Center for Assault Treatment Center, and then the lead detective that's involved in the investigations and collaborating with all the community-based organizations is
Excellent.
Angela Romeral.
Perfect.
So we can go first.
Pull the microphone close
Thank
to you.
you. Good morning. My name is Kim Roth. I'm from the Valley Cares Family Justice Center. We're a chartered center of California State University, Northridge. And we are very proud to be a co-located partner with law enforcement to provide direct services to the San Fernando and Santa Clarita Valley. Through our co-location model, we've been able to reduce barriers to services for victims of domestic and sexual violence. And through an early program evaluation that the university has done, we've been able to determine that this model that's a best practice throughout the nation and the first and only in Los Angeles County has actually improved our felony filings, which ultimately keeps all of our victims safe and free from domestic violence. Thank you.
I'm Kathy Adams. I'm the Clinical Director of CAT, Center for Assault Treatment Services of Northridge Hospital Medical Center. CATS has been in existence since 1997. In that period of time, we've seen over 11,000 victims of child sexual abuse, adult sexual assault, and domestic violence. And how we work with law enforcement is we provide the medical evidentiary examinations for these victims on the average of 80, 85 a month in the last several years, to collect evidence to help in the prosecution and make sure that we can hold perpetrators accountable. We're open 24/7, and again, our partners have been LAPD, the Crime Lab, the District Attorney's Office, where we act as expert witnesses in court when these cases are filed. And we're very proud, and the relationship that we have had with the city has been positive for our victims, who the youngest has been 11 months old and the oldest 96. 60% of these victims are children.
Detective Romeral.
Good morning. I'm Detective Romero. I'm the lead detective at the Valley Cares Family Justice Center, which was implemented by LAPD in 2009. And just really briefly, the Family Justice Center is a co-location model for victims of domestic violence and sexual assault, where LAPD has physically located 5 detectives to this off-center site where we work in collaboration with the advocates from Valley Trauma Center, the nurses from the Center for Assault Treatment Services, the City Attorney's Office, and civil legal services that are also on site. And the concept is basically that we are able to provide wraparound services to domestic violence victims and victims of sexual assault who often lack the means of transportation to actually access all of these services in our community. So we have actually brought the services to them by having them housed under one roof in one location. And the benefit to the police department, as the lead investigator, it has certainly demonstrated that the quality of our investigations have improved. We take all of our victims from domestic violence cases and sexual assault to the Center for Assault Treatment Services, and they are able to do forensic examinations, collect evidence, testify in court. And I'd like to just point out that during our first year in operation, we actually did an analysis of our cases. And of those cases that had a forensic medical exam component to it that were presented for prosecution, 97% of those cases resulted in prosecution by either the District Attorney's Office or the City Attorney's Office. In that sense, I think it's a great benefit to LAPD. It's a public safety benefit in that we are able to hold the perpetrators accountable in these types of offenses.
Thank you. George Villegas, I'm the Deputy Chief of Operations Valley Bureau. From a managerial perspective, this is a resounding success for us. It's a nationwide model. Other agencies look to us to see how we came up with a collaborative relationship, a site, an investigative process by which we have such high standards and high filing rates, as well as clearance rates of all of our investigations. What this also does for us, though, is it really addresses the issues with the victims and the relationships and the services that they provide, in addition to the investigation and in addition to the immediate services that are provided in terms of protection and all those issues. There's the additional issues that, as a result of this relationship that they have with Department of Children and Family Services and other community-based organizations, that they can provide them additional services. We find ourselves in a situation where the site and the building that we're in now is going to be there no longer for us. So we're in an immediate situation where we need to relocate all of our services, and if we don't do so rather quickly, we'll be in a situation where we will not be able to provide the services that we currently provide to the San Fernando Valley, as well as the Santa Clarita and others that we service as well. So I urge this body to find in favor of this motion.
Thank you very much. If you don't mind, Mr. President, I'd like them to clarify one point before I close, and that is, if we were to allow a lapse in this service due to the facilities that you have right now, they're going to be knocked down, and us being able to situate you in the building that's before us on this document, where else would people go to get that kind of service? And secondly, is there the capacity in our midst for people to actually continue to get the service that's being rendered right now?
I don't believe that we will be able to provide the services the way and manner in which we do. We would have to send people, victims, to the Santa Monica. There's the Santa Monica Rape Treatment Center. There's another community-based organization that does similar work, not to our level of expectation and standard, but in Alhambra. Then there's the others in LACMC, USC. They also provide services, but certainly not. It significantly impacts law enforcement, but more importantly, it impacts the victims.
Yes. So thank you very much, Mr. President. This is critical. Colleagues, I hope we receive your aye vote on this matter. It is critical. This is the first giant step for the City of Los Angeles to do its part to make sure that this service continues. It's critical, it's vital, and heaven forbid anyone would have to sit in a car for 60 minutes in order for them to start rendering service to them if they're actually a victim in the San Fernando Valley and they have to go that far. There's no reason why we should have to have victims do that. Thank you very much.
Mr. Buscaino.
As amended, and the amendments have been passed out.
And for clarification, that's a substitute motion of Mr. Cardenas that has been circulated.
Motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was pleased and honored to introduce this motion for my colleague, Mr. Cardenas. And I'll tell you, Tony, we really thank you for championing this effort in the Valley. And I've continue to be impressed with your commitment and working with the Los Angeles Police Department and a number of nonprofits to do what's right for our victims in the city. And serving the Los Angeles Police Department for a little over 14 years, I've spent much time with victims, and it's not fun, especially assault victims, whether it's a child or a woman. It's a crime that, to me, continues to be disgusting, and I want to thank CATS and the police department for continuing to partner and improve the services for our assault victims. So I stand with you, Tony, and share your passion and your dedication to our victims across the city, specifically in the Valley. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, with that said, Mr. Clerk, we're voting on an amended motion or substitute motion?
It's a substitute motion, sir. Substitute motion 22.
Okay. Then, with that said, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Forthwith. Okay, Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And if we could take up, I think this is part of item 3. And I'm joined here by an incredible collection of advocates, by our very own Paula Daniels from the Mayor's Office, who has been a great leader in this city and beyond, to talk about one of the most elemental of human needs, and certainly the most critical driver of our health, food. Today in Los Angeles, we declare on Wednesday, October 24th, as Food Day in Los Angeles, to recognize the city's commitment to the Good Food Movement and the Los Angeles Food Policy Council. Go ahead. There is a revolution afoot. It is not just happening in Los Angeles, but Los Angeles is one of those centers of this revolution, where the health and the well-being of our residents is of our primary concern. Reducing obesity and diet-related diseases by promoting safe and healthy diets is a critical factor in improving residents' overall health. I can think around this entire horseshoe of the different initiatives that we have initiated here in the city of Los Angeles, from Mr. Huizar making sure there's excess food that goes to the hungry, from Ms. Perry looking at fast food restaurants and the overconcentration of them in South Los Angeles, from the way that we were able to create a fresh food access program years ago to bring farmers markets and community gardens to lower income communities. But still today, more than 1/3 of low-income Angelenos struggle to put adequate food on the table. And the Food Policy Council advocates that sustainable agricultural practices are critical for the conservation of our land, our air and water resources, and for our public health. We need look no further than right here in the middle of the horseshoe, where our city symbol has 3 agricultural elements. We have oranges, olives, and grapes, which go back to the roots of this town as a great agricultural center. But the mission of the Council is to make sure that we take that heritage and that legacy and make it a living legacy, to support local farmers and benefits to our local economy, not only by helping to keep their businesses viable, but also by returning indirect and induced benefits to the region. Whether it's folks who are producing honey in their backyard, whether it's craft foods, whether it's the the Fruit and Flowers Freedom Act that we passed here, we are making sure that this land returns to its roots, literally. Residents of all communities across Los Angeles deserve access to sufficient and affordable and culturally relevant healthy food that is especially important to promote urban agriculture, among other things, and supporting development of edible landscapes and parkways, and making available city-owned land for community gardens. Some of the things that the Food Policy Council has done include developing a regional food hub that will facilitate and sustain connections between local farmers and urban consumers to help ensure that all Los Angeles communities have access to healthy food. They've also expanded access to farmers markets and community gardens in order to increase equitable access to healthy food in all our neighborhoods. And they prioritize sustainable, freshly prepared, locally produced school lunches that teach children to eat accordingly to the dietary guidelines for Americans and encourage them to adopt appropriate lifelong eating habits. Today is the second National Food Day, where we ask Angelenos throughout our city to join with others across the country to celebrate the efforts to make healthy, affordable, fair and sustainable food available in all communities, and to advocate for continued efforts towards building a more healthy, just and sustainable food system. So we encourage Angelenos to take action today, to take the Good Food Pledge, and to make sure that we join with other concerned residents to provide lasting support for good food, food that is healthy, affordable, fair and sustainable, and quite frankly, tastes really good. Now, I'd like to present this.
Councilmember, if I may, you do have 2 speakers on the queue.
Sure, absolutely. You want to hear from them first, and then we'll go to Paul Daniels?
Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. So,
Councilmember Perry?
let me just give this to Paula Daniels on behalf of the entire Food Council, and then we'll hear from some other council members and hear from Paula Daniels. But we declare this very tasty, healthy Food Day in Los Angeles, October 24th, 2012. Thank you.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Councilmember Perry? Please.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've just joined the mayor and Paula Daniels and her food policy members out there in the rotunda to celebrate Food Day here in Los Angeles. Now, obviously, we're battling the issues of diabetes, heart disease, and diabetes, or diabesity, as I said. The foods that we eat should bolster our health, and many of you are aware of the work that we've been doing in South Los Angeles, and we've been committed to coming up with creative strategies to increase access to healthy food, from the design guidelines to slow down the over-proliferation of fast food restaurants, coupled with an effort to bring in more grocery stores and sit-down restaurants to increase food choices in the midst of food deserts. One of the more interesting initiatives was the Healthy Eating Alternative program to take local convenience stores and to help them get funding for more refrigeration and to change the configuration of their stores to put the fresh fruits, vegetables, meats, eggs, cheese in the front, and so that's what people see when they walk in as opposed to candy, alcohol, and processed foods. I think we're all working very hard to make healthy choice in the city of Los Angeles an easy choice, but it's also important to bring food to the people, directly to the people in the form of farmers markets. I know that Mr. Parks has one in Leimert Park. I have one in my own field office at 43rd and Central. Education and access can help us address the issues of food deserts and deal with the health issues related to our heart health, diabetes, and issues related to cancer through sound public policy and through education. Food Day is our opportunity to not only stand up, but to stand together as a community, and I want to thank all of you for doing this and pursuing it for several years now. Thanks to the mayor for having the foresight and the vision to establish a food policy expert in the form of Paula Daniels and her council members. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We also have on the queue Councilmember Koretz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm particularly excited about this item, especially on Food Day 2012. And we had a substitute motion introduced to item number 3 because the mayor issued the executive order earlier today mentioned in the original motion. About a year ago, I introduced a motion calling for our city departments to adopt local food procurement goals consistent with the LA Food Policy Council recommendations and the Good Food for All agenda. Paula Daniels and the Food Council put their heads together for months and came up with something truly groundbreaking, a comprehensive good food purchasing policy guideline to encourage and reward food service institutions for purchasing food that is healthy, affordable, fair for all participants in the food supply chain from workers to purchasers, and sustainable for our environment. It took us a few tries to get it right, so I especially want to thank Councilmember Alarcon and his team for their patience and help in getting it before you today, and Richard in particular for your long time and important advocacy around food issues. And now Paula Daniels, the mayor's senior food policy advisor and the head of the LA Food Policy Council, will walk us through the details of this item.
Going to item 3 in a little bit. This is just a presentation preceding it about Food Day. No,
yes.
no, that was
the
my
screen
mistake.
there. It's item number 3.
This is
that says 3 and that says presentation. So let's just hold on item 3 if we can.
We're doing both.
Okay.
So let's do the presentation, and then if there is subject matter to be presented, we'll do that. Then we'll have the discussion.
Okay, great.
Okay. So please, let's finish presentation. We do have one more person on the queue. Councilor Koretz, we will get back to you on the question. So let's finish the presentation, and then we will go to the queue. We'll finish that. So Councilmember Reznor, please.
Yes, as Paula Daniels is going over there to get something, first of all, Paula Daniels is a constituent of mine, and we've gotten to work together over the years, and you're an incredible lady, and you've done an amazing amount of good things. Look, when we talk about Food Day, you're looking at a guy that understands that quite well. A diabetic, as I am, and have been for the last 10 years, it's been a critical element. And now as a person that has been struck with cancer out of the blue, it's even more important. Whatever I eat has to be of great quality and of great significance and care. I eat absolutely according to the rules of what we're doing. So Food Day is my day. It happens to be every day my day. And I want to thank you, Paula, for your leadership, the mayor for his leadership, Eric Garcetti for standing right there and playing a major role, and all my colleagues that have participated in making this happen. Congratulations and thank you very much for what you're doing.
Great. Thank you, Councilor Rosendahl. So, Ms. Daniels?
Thank you, Councilmember Garcetti, for making this presentation. Thank you to all council members for supporting it. This resolution was signed by every council member, and this is really quite an incredible statement on behalf of the city. I do just want to take a moment to thank Councilmember Rosendahl for your comments and to wish you the very best in your recovery. I think we all want to take a moment. Great. Back to you. All right. All the very best. This really is an important moment in time as we recognize Food Day. I think all of you have contributed and understand how important it is. And when you take the Good Food Pledge, as I did today, you're pledging for good food system that is more healthy, fair, affordable, and supports sustainably grown food. I want to just take a moment as part of this presentation to acknowledge the people that are here who are part of the LA Food Policy Council. And I'm going to call the names of some of them. We're also a lot of them here as part of our extended group, because the Food Policy Council is a group of about 35 members, and our extended working group are about 100. And beyond that, we have 500 people participating in our work. So it's an incredible amount of work. It's quite a movement around the city and around the country, and here you find the leaders in this region. So I just want to briefly mention their names, and if they can raise their hands when I mention it. Earlier we had David Binkle, who's on our Food Policy Council, who's the Director of Food Services for LA Unified School District, and they just announced that they are adopting the Good Food Purchasing Pledge that you'll be hearing as part of item 3. I mean, they're moving it forward. We have Glenn Dake from the Los Angeles Community Garden Council, Michael Flood, the CEO of the Los Angeles Regional Food Bank, Renee Gilbo, who was the food director at Pret A Manger, Mary Lee from PolicyLink, Miguel Luna from Urban Semillas, Matthew Sharp from California Food Policy Advocates, Dr. Paul Simon, who's the director of the Division of Chronic Disease and Injury Prevention at the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health, Alex Weiser of Weiser Family Farms, a small local farm that produces organic foods that you can find at Whole Foods and farmers markets. We have Getz Wolf from the Department of Urban Planning at UCLA Luskin School of Public Affairs, Francesca De La Rosa, the Policy Director of Works, over there, Rudy Espinoza, Senior Program Officer of Community Financial Resource Center and Learn, Joyce Chan from CLA, Joanne Lowe, Executive Director of the Food Chain Workers Alliance, Julia Kotz, the Executive Director of the Garden School Foundation, Brianna Morrison with the Community Health Council, and the staff of the Food Policy Council. We have Alexa Delwich, Claire Fox, Colleen McKinney. We also have Michelle Wood from the LA County Department of Public Health, and we have Dana Gunders from NRDC, and many more, as you can see. Here are just some of our many food supporters. Thank you all. We thank you so much for this presentation, for your commitment to making Los Angeles a good food region.
Well, thank you, Paula. I know you've been conducting many meetings. My staff makes me aware of all the meetings you put together. Your leadership, your stewardship has been amazing, and without that pillar, this structure would not stand. So thank you so much for everything you've done.
Thank you.
And thank you, Councilor Garcetti, for the presentation. And to ease into the transition of the item itself, Mr. Clerk, you have to formally introduce the item. Item 3?
Sir, I believe you just did so. Item 3.
Okay, great. With that, I do believe Councilman Koretz had a question. I think you're one of the movers of this item as well, sir.
Oh, I just wanted to ask Paula Daniels to walk us through the details of the item.
Okay, and we do have Councilman Alarcon. The floor is yours, sir.
Somewhere around here. Do you have the amendment? Yes, sir. It's not here. Council members, I just want to make note that we circulated an amendment to this item, essentially to enhance this action today. So by supporting amendment to item 3, this amendment to item 3, we adopt the attached Good Food Purchasing Pledge recommended by the Los Angeles Food Policy Council. We support the implementation of by city departments of the Good Food Purchasing Guidelines recommended by the Los Angeles Food Policy Council pursuant to the direction of the mayor. And we direct the city administrative officer to report to Arts, Parks, Health, and Aging Committee annually with a status report on the department's efforts to implement the food procurement guidelines of the Good Food Purchasing Pledge as detailed in recommendations 1 and 2. Council members, this is one of those policies where unless we continue to follow up on it, continually get report backs from the departments, we'll have some general managers that will embrace it wholeheartedly and others who might need a little more nudging. So I would encourage you to press whoever the next chair of the Arts, Parks, Health, and Humanities Committee is to urge this policy forward, and I believe the Food Policy Council will do the same. So, congratulations in anticipation of your success. This is a lot of work, but I think it is setting a tone for not just Los Angeles, but for the rest of the nation. Congratulations.
Okay. Did you have a friendly amendment? Ms.
We
Daniels?
do. We'd like to explain the item before you. So thank you so much, Councilmember Alarcon, Councilmember Koretz, and council members. I'm pleased to tell you, as was mentioned before, that the mayor did sign this morning an executive order directing the departments with the budgets under his control to adopt the Good Food Purchasing Pledge, which is before you. And the idea is actually very simple. It's you are what you eat and you are what you buy, as Councilmember Rosendahl mentioned. You could also think of it as a vote with food dollars. So you could think of it as working like LEED certification. LEED certification was used to launch the green building movement, but in this case it's for food purchasing. So we mentioned before, we define good food as food that's healthy, affordable, fairly produced, and sustainably grown. And this purchasing pledge encourages sustainably produced food in categories of the local economy, environmental sustainability, fair labor practices, humane food production, and nutritional excellence. And there's escalating levels of compliance, so an institution can get a 1 to 5 star rating by getting their good food levels from 15% to 25%. We don't expect any budgetary impacts. The key concept here is that it is about choice. It's an inclusive policy. It doesn't crowd out choices. It just makes room for value-based food selection, just the same way LEED certification works for buildings. So it sets metric-based goals and flexible options for achieving them. So the key thing here is it operates as an expression of value in the 5 areas that you're going to hear about today. We also have letters of support from 25 organizations, which we have given to your offices and will provide to the clerk. Behind this is a coalition of health advocacy organizations, environmental groups, labor, and business, some of whom you'll hear from today. So we're very quickly going to walk you through it with the presentation here. Alexa will talk to you about the background.
Good morning, council members. My name is Alexa Delwich, Food Policy Coordinator for the Los Angeles Food Policy Council. And over the last year and a half, the Food Policy Council has collaborated with many people to develop the Good Food Purchasing Pledge and guidelines. We had experts in sustainability, labor, public health, animal welfare, along with businesses, including chefs, distributors, value-added processors, as well as hospitals, schools, and city employees. And we've coordinated closely with LA County Department of Public Health to learn from their experiences implementing a nutrition policy for the county departments, and they've assisted us with developing our nutrition guidelines to align with theirs. Nearly 100 people have reviewed our document or attended a focus group. Again, wide cross-sector representation from major food purchasers and schools, hospitals, and a lot of different experts in different issue areas. We've received very positive feedback. We've also surveyed city departments to learn about their purchasing practices. To develop the guidelines, we did quite a bit of background research examining best practices nationally. And through our research, we learned that procurement is a top priority across the country, and a lot of excellent work is being done. We learned that most cities, though, address either local sourcing or nutrition. And we adapted some of those best practices, and we expanded from there. From the very beginning, our working group decided and agreed that a good food procurement policy should address our entire food system, which in addition to local and healthy, must include fair treatment of farm and food workers, support for small and mid-sized farmers and food businesses, environmental sustainability, and animal welfare. And Dana, Joanne, and Matt will provide more details on those categories. But at the same time as we developed the guidelines, we were mindful to make them feasible and cost-effective for the institutions. And this is possible. Major purchasers such as LAUSD have successfully implemented elements of the guidelines without increasing costs. LAUSD made a commitment to improve nutritional quality of school meals and to source at least 50% of their produce locally. They were able to improve meal quality, increase the percent of produce purchased, and source approximately 70% of that produce locally within 200 miles, while their food budget remained constant despite rising food prices nationally. And now Dana will talk more in detail.
Thank you, Alexa. My name is Dana Gunders. I'm with the Natural Resources Defense Council and a national environmental organization also known as NRDC. It's an honor to present to you today because this policy would really thrust LA into the forefront of food issues and food policy. We see many local food purchasing policies come through our way. Local economy benefits dramatically. This by purchasing local food, the dollars are staying in the community, and it has a multiplier effect that almost doubles the economic impacts in the city. But local food purchasing also provides a means for farmers to stay in business, which means that it preserves agricultural lands and open space in surrounding areas for all to enjoy. It also allows for a direct relationship between businesses and for farmers to sell at farmers markets, which allow farmers to actually sell products they otherwise couldn't because they don't meet commercial specifications. But what really sets this policy aside is how far it goes in the environmental components, beyond anything we as an environmental organization have seen yet. Agriculture done right can regenerate lands. Done wrong, it can pollute waterways and introduce toxins along the way. This policy rewards those doing agriculture right, but it doesn't stop there. It meets agriculture where it is today and allows for farmers who are just starting to track metrics and improve their performance environmentally to also participate and be rewarded. In the meat category, this policy promotes alternatives to factory farming. Today, over 80% of the antibiotics in the country are fed to livestock, leading to the threat of antibiotic resistance and drugs like penicillin not being effective for humans, as well as foodborne illnesses and air and water pollution. This policy supports alternatives to that factory farming and allows for meat production in a way that we want to see happen.
Good morning. I'm Joanne Lowe, Executive Director of the Food Chain Workers Alliance, a national coalition of unions and worker centers organizing workers throughout the food system. Our LA area members include the UFCW Local 770, the Unite Here Food Service Division, Warehouse Workers United, and the Restaurant Opportunity Center of Los Angeles. I'm also a member of the City Sweat-Free Advisory Group. So first I want to say that we support all 5 of the values that the Good Food Procurement Guidelines encompass. And Dana just spoke a little bit about animal welfare, which includes the fair treatment of animals. What sometimes seems to get lost in discussions around the humane treatment of animals is that the workers who are raising those animals, working on farms, and transporting, cooking, and serving food are often not treated fairly. Nationally, 20 million people work in the food system. That's the largest private sector employer in the country. And in LA County, 1 in 7 jobs are in the food system. Last year, we surveyed over 600 workers around the country and found that while 13.5% earn a living wage, the vast majority earns low or even sub-minimum wages. And ironically, food system workers suffer food insecurity and use food stamps at a higher rate than the general workforce. So we developed the Good Food Purchasing Guidelines for fairly produced food with these issues in mind. The Fair Food Guidelines set a baseline of requiring food providers, from distributors, food processors, and farms, to at least comply with domestic labor law and international labor standards. This is consistent with the City of LA Sweat-Free Purchasing Ordinance. And while low wages and poor working conditions are unfortunately true for the majority of jobs in the food system, there are some good ones. So the highest level of fair food in the Good Food Purchasing Guidelines includes food that has been certified by other programs such as Fair Trade and the Agricultural Justice Project, as well as food produced by workers who have a union contract or who are owners in a cooperative business. Thank you.
Good morning, members of the council. My name is Matthew Sharp. I work with California Food Policy Advocates, a local nutrition nonprofit organization. I'm also a member of the Food Policy Council, and I'm here today to encourage you to adopt this particular policy because it moves forward a number of important components at the same time, a remarkable feat in the world of developing and implementing public policy. The nutrition guidelines that are part of this are pushing the envelope to ensure that the healthy choice is the easy choice for city employees, city residents, members of the public that patronize city facilities. It's an important alignment of the city and the school district, who last evening also introduced a motion to adopt good food as a priority in its purchasing. And so we're encouraging you to make sure that the consistency needed in health messages and nutritional foods available are in place at both the city, the school district, and at the community level so that children can develop good habits that will last a lifetime. So thank you for your support, and thank you for entertaining this policy and continuing to pursue it and ensuring its full implementation.
Okay, so let's just hang on tight. Is that everyone?
Just one, and she'll be brief, I know.
Hi, good morning, council members. My name is Renee Gilbo, and I'm a food policy council member. And I have worked in the food service industry for the last 15 years, and most recently for the last 7 years as Director of Food and Beverage for large international corporations like Pret a Manger and Le Pain Quotidien, who have good food procurement practices in place. And I just wanted to testify to the feasibility of the implementation of these standards and of this document. I think by creating purposeful demand for sustainable, local, fair, and good food, it is imperative to implement these guidelines, which are very feasible and doable. We say in the food business, create the demand and the supply will deliver. And I just want to respectfully ask you to adopt these comprehensive guidelines and for our great city of LA and set the leading example for our great nation. Thank you.
Thank you. That does conclude our remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Daniels, and thank you so much for your hard work. We do have two speakers on the queue. If you just hold on tight. We have Councilmember Perry and then Councilmember Koretz. Councilmember Perry.
Thank you very much. One second. Sorry about that. I'm sorry. I was distracted. Well, anyway, I'm in support of the Good Food for the agenda and the Good Food Purchasing Pledge. That's why I'm wearing this sticker today. Growing and sourcing local food not only enhances farmer profitability and creates jobs, but grows our rural and our urban economies through local food business development and connects consumers with nutritious, locally grown food, and again, grows jobs. So I look forward to casting my ballot in favor of healthy food grown locally and sustainably by producers who can bring economic vitality to our rural and urban communities. And I'm looking forward to a report back from city departments on the status of their local food procurement goals. It's also really uplifting that the governor signed AB 1616, the California Homemade Food Act, fostering the healthy local food movement, creating a new kind of micro-entrepreneur here in California. Now circulating at this point is a resolution today in support of Meatless Mondays, encouraging people to go meatless one day a week for their health and for the health of our planet. So you'll see that in just a minute too. But this is a good day for food and a good day for everyone's health.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Perry. Let's take this one comment card and we'll have Councilmember Koretz close the item. We have Bob Larley. Bob Larley, are you out here? Please come on up. Give us your name and
Good morning. My name is Bob Larley, and I'm the immediate past chair of the American Heart Association's Greater Los Angeles Board of Directors. The mission of the American Heart Association is to build healthier lives free of cardiovascular disease and stroke. We have a very aggressive impact goal, and that impact goal is to improve the heart health of all Americans by 20% while reducing death from cardiovascular disease by 20%. All by the year 2020. Now, we cannot achieve that goal if we're not willing to address one of the biggest health crises in the nation today, which is obesity. We believe that the workplace is a key environment and a key opportunity to improve the health of Los Angeles and the U.S. as a whole. As one of the largest employers in LA County, the city has an opportunity to set the model for other cities to enact similar ordinances that will help improve the health of our communities. And the great thing about this benefit is that it extends beyond a healthy work population. It extends directly into those individual homes and into their communities. We know that 80% of cardiovascular disease and other chronic illnesses can be prevented through healthy lifestyle changes. By adopting the healthy food and beverage procurement standards, the City of Los Angeles has an opportunity to create an environment for their employees so that they will have the choices through access to healthy food and beverages, and as well as integrating nutrition education into the workplace in all city facilities. So we applaud the bold step that you're taking today and encourage you not to stop here, but to keep going. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We do have Councilor Koretz to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, as we all know, what happens in LA doesn't stay in LA. We have great faith that this groundbreaking policy produced by the Food Council will spread across the country, promoting health and well-being in our diets, protecting our farming workforce, supporting local economies, providing humane conditions for livestock, and spreading environmentally sustainable principles far and wide. I think we can all be very proud of the action that we're taking today, and I ask you all for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Koretz. Okay, with that said, Madam Clerk, we're going to prepare to vote. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
And Mr. President, again, for further clarification, that is as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And thank you very much. Ms. Perry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to make a motion to reconsider item number 5, which I guess was already voted on. It looks like it was already passed, and I wanted to reconsider it because I needed to add a clarification in there to the Housing Department.
Okay, so we'll quickly vote on reconsideration where it relates to item 5. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay, item 5 is now before us.
Yes.
All right, item 5 is now before us, and I wanted to put a clarification on the record, and I know that Helmi Hisrich is on her way back from the Housing Department. She may not be here yet. Mr. Cardenas chairs HCED, and we had discussed this item, and I believe we had gotten an understanding or reached an understanding with the Housing Department that the applications that are currently in the hopper for the low-income housing tax credit program for resyndication, this is a resyndication effort, would not have to wait for the establishment of a new policy, that they would be processed as is now, and there is a list of them under item 5. Many of them are in the South Los Angeles area, and I believe that I had gotten a commitment from the Housing Department, and that was my understanding at the HCED committee level, that these would be processed and not held up, and that they would come back processed within 30 days, not processed and waiting for the establishment of a new resyndication policy, but that these projects that were in the hopper, and that's Fame Manor, Fame Gardens, Fame Arms, Figueroa EDC, Figueroa Senior Housing, Normandy Economic Development Corporation for Normandy Seniors, Concerned Citizens of South Los Angeles, Roberta Stevens, Mount Zion Apartments, Central Avenue LLC, and One Wilkins Manor, just to take a slice of the very long list of projects that are in the hopper. I read the names of these projects on the record so that there's no further misunderstanding and no further need for clarification. But again, my understanding was that these projects would be processed within 30 days and come back to HCED within 30 days, fully processed and not caught in the middle of a change in policy. And it was my belief that is what the Housing Department agreed to. So I want to make sure that that is the understanding, and then add that in as clarification to item 5.
Well, we have Mr. Cardenas is here, so maybe he can respond.
Thank you, Councilmember Perry, for summarizing accurately what took place in the committee with the committee members present and the people who represented the department, Housing Department at the time. And I just want to reemphasize, in other words, what you just accurately reiterated, and that is that the Housing Department should continue with their responsibility of solidifying guidelines. However, they can continue with this process with these applicants without those specific guidelines having been approved. So the fact of the matter is, what I would hate to see is the Housing Department change their efforts different than what they represented to the committee. that they could and would be ready to bring those applications forward well within 30 days of that committee hearing, and that the guidelines concurrently on a parallel track will continue to go forward for future applications.
Right.
Now, there may be subsets of those future guidelines that are actually applied today. That's fine. But when it comes to actual guidelines saying these are the guidelines A to Z, that in fact will be utilized for future applications, and after those guidelines are approved and those guidelines go through the City Council and the City Council concurs that those shall be the new guidelines.
Right. Thank you.
Having said what you said, Ms. Perry, is that accurate as well?
Yeah, it's very right on point. And so our understanding is they're going to come back with applications that have been processed, not held up by a change in policy. And they can run on separate tracks.
Correct. Parallel, separate, whatever you want to call them, but the bottom line is the two will go forward so that there's no injury, because unfortunately time is money in the real world, and in addition to that, many of these applications are housing projects that are held by not-for-profits. Unfortunately, by and large, not-for-profits do not have 1 and 2 and 3 years worth of reserves, and therefore this process going forward in a responsible, timely manner is actually critical when it comes to being able to keep our housing stock at the healthy level, well,
Yes.
at the level that it is today. Thank you.
You're satisfied? Okay, now let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay, at the request of Mr. Rosendahl, we will now go to item 2.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I would like, if I could, Brenda to come up to the table, and also our city attorney's office. And I have 2 speaker cards, Mr. President, if they would be allowed to speak first, and then have our staff respond to it.
Now, we've already had a public comment, public hearing on these items, Mr. Rosendahl, and I don't want to open it up because we're going to have a very crowded agenda.
Yes, there's just 2 of them, and they're the ones from Allen's Pet Store.
But now I've got more than 2.
Oh, I don't know about the others.
Yeah, but if I let one speak, I have to let them all speak.
How many do you have?
I don't know. I have about 7, I think.
Oh, boy.
So why don't we start out with you questioning our general manager, and we'll
Great,
see
okay.
if we can't sort this out.
Okay, I know that you all have been talking about a way in which Allen's Pet Store, and for the record, that's the pet store I've been dealing with for 30 years. I originally got a lot of my chickens from there, continue to get other animals from them, and they're a really first-class group. And they're the ones who were talking with me when you were first putting this forward, and I was the only no vote when that happened. But since then, you've been discussing it. If the 2 of you could explain how a responsible pet store like Allen's might be exempt from this policy or could somehow work with it. Please explain.
Yeah. Well, in terms of the of Allen's, this ordinance doesn't include chickens at all. It's just about dogs, cats, and bunnies.
Yeah,
and
they have rabbits.
Yeah, and what we will be doing is making these animals available to them, prime animals from the shelter that they can resell.
But they don't do the cats or the dogs. It's just the rabbits. But could there be some exceptions for them with the rabbits? Because in their particular case, they're responsible about it, and anybody who gets a rabbit that hasn't been fixed knows the responsible road they do. And I've watched that over the years, and frankly, I've participated with them over the years. Right now, I have 4 rabbits, but none of them are able to reproduce, and it's a wonderful collection of 2 males and 2 females. But it's part of my joy, too, to have those rabbits. So how can we give them some flexibility when it comes to rabbits?
There would be only 2 ways. The bigger issue here is really cats and dogs.
Right.
So in a sense, it makes it easier. With rabbits, there are no restrictions that require kennel permits, etc. The way the ordinance is written right now, even for rabbits, they will not be able to sell commercially bred rabbits. They would have to get the rabbits from a rescue or from a shelter. The only other alternative would be for rabbits to be deleted from the ordinance,
could we do
so
that
it would
without a
only
big
apply
issue?
to dogs and cats.
That would make sense to me, just like I would like 5 cats to be what a person could have. And when we went into the dog issue, as you know, people went a little berserk, so we withdrew that whole issue. And I'm still for 5 cats if, in fact, we could move forward, because there's so many cats out there that could be taken in. Can we delete it from this and leave it to the dogs and the cats, and then come back and revisit it?
I would defer to Dion as to whether there would be any problem because of the way this was agendized.
Yeah.
If there is no Brown Act problem, then
Well, let me jump in here. I would defer to the chair, and Mr. Rosendahl. It's my understanding that there's no interest on the chairman's part to exempt rabbits.
I missed your full question. I wonder if you could repeat that.
What Bill would like to exempt rabbits, and I was of the impression that that was not what you were desirous of.
I'm not particularly looking to do that. If you've actually looked in the shelters, there are dozens of wonderful rabbits along with dogs and cats, and they sadly are euthanized like all the rest of the animals. So I think if stores were looking for rabbits to sell, they would be able to find an adequate supply from our shelters. If it was a significant problem for Mr. Rosendahl, we could revisit it later, but I would ask him to accept this as it is, because we do have many rabbits in our shelters, and I think the pet stores especially, which wind up with many of them during Easter, it would be a big boost to our city's shelters if they obtain their rabbits from those shelters.
Okay, Mr. Rosendahl,
Well,
would you
I would
like
love to revisit that issue if you could put it on the table for a while so we could have further discussions about rabbits.
You know what? I think that's all right with me. I would accept that as a friendly amendment, because the greater problem is the dogs and cats in our shelters. So I'd be willing to do that and revisit that issue at a later time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Koretz. Mr. President, that would work for me quite well.
So, Mr. Koretz, you need to... I was of the impression, given what you said earlier, that you wanted to move forward with this, as is, and if later on you would revisit this item with Mr. Rosendahl.
If Mr. Rosendahl will accept the item as is, I'm willing to hold the hearing and revisit the issue at a later date of the rabbits.
That'll work.
Okay. Okay. That's right. Now we're going to vote. That's what we're doing. Okay, no more speakers in the queue. Let's open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes, 2 noes.
Mr. President, that'll go over 1 week for a second reading.
Okay. Okay, now we're going to move to, folks, you have to understand we've got a lot of people in the building today. So Bill, I didn't see you. I'm sorry.
Just a point of order. As you know, the SEIU is in the room here. Significant amount of folks from the SEIU, and we're going to be holding a press conference back there. And I just wanted to be excused to hold a press conference at the SEIU about a potential strike for Thanksgiving, which I want to avoid.
Bill, you have carte blanche here, okay? You have a gold card, okay?
Great.
So anyway, I'm going to go to general public comment. We're going to do it for 1 minute, and because we need to clear some space to bring in other people. So Barbara Coster, I think it's Carolyn, and I could be wrong, Carolyn or Carlin Rambo, Nancy Paulson, please come forward. And James Paulson. Don't be shy. And if you please identify yourself, and then make your comment. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Barbara Kloster of Thousand Oaks, California, and I've written all of you an email on October 17th. This is about the signing of your contract with Veolia with Dash. I'm the mother of the second most severely injured in the Metrolink 111 crash, and it's been over 4 years, and Veolia still will not admit accountability, responsibility, or anything else towards that horrific crash, September 12, 2008. So I'm asking you to reconsider your contract that you've signed with them, and if you don't reconsider it and you go ahead with having them represent you, then please keep a vigilant eye on them and make sure what happened to us doesn't happen to you. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, identify yourself.
Good morning. My name is James Paulson. I'm a survivor of Metrolink 111. I want to thank the city and county of Los Angeles and the first responders. I'll never forget the officer that pulled me off the train. All I got was his name was David. And wherever you are, David, thank you. I want to bring the attention about Veolia. I have recently learned that they are now going to supervise the driver's dash for the city. I would caution the city in engaging with this company. If anything happens, I can guarantee you they will not stand by you. Please take in that consideration. I hope it's not too late to have an alternative. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm Nancy Paulson. I too have concerns about the $160 million contract recently awarded to Veolia Transportation by the City of Los Angeles. While they may tout that they are very concerned about public safety, we know that that is not the case. And my previous two speakers have pointed out the specific example with the Chatsworth crash. There's plenty of documentation that they have operated with gross negligence and falsified their on-time reports. The City of Los Angeles and the taxpayers have paid dearly for this accident, responding and the cleanup. So if there is time, I would really like to ask you to please reconsider awarding this contract to Veolia Transportation. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Carolyn.
Hi, good morning. My name is Carolyn Rambo. I was a passenger on a Metrolink 111 on September 12, 2008. I'm here to respectfully request that you guys reconsider the contract that I know you guys voted on it on, I think, September 17th. I prepared a package. I guess I didn't make enough copies. But for what occurred on the Metrolink accident, the underwriters, the insurers, have now sued Veolia for their portion of what they funded, the cap amount, on October 17th. We've learned, throughout the course that Veolia doesn't put public safety first. And that is also evident in the complaint that was just filed on October 17th by the underwriters. So please, if you could take a look at that, and just, if you can't reconsider, just please keep a watchful eye on Veolia and your contract. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Alarcon.
Herb, Mr. President, excuse me.
You can call me Herb.
I think it would be wise, and I'm happy to send a letter to the Department of Transportation to ask them to respond to the concerns raised by these people. And I think it's a fair question, and it should be answered.
No, I agree with you. Okay, Mike Garcia, Maria Mendoza, and Mr. Englander.
Standing up, but I didn't bring my booster chair today. So,
I suffer from that same.
Thank you.
Especially if you let Mr. Weezar tell it.
I'm going to ask that we actually all co-sign on that letter with Richard as well. That's a big issue, and I
Okay.
wanted to thank them for coming as well. This was an issue near and dear to my heart, where I was one of the first responders there with many of us as well. So thank you. Appreciate it.
No, that was a very special day. I remember hearing your story and Richardson, Mr. Zines. It was a very emotional day. Mr. Rosendahl, I thought I saw your hand.
Yes, what I thought would be appropriate, and I'd like my colleagues to consider and support this. As you can see, there's a whole group of SEIU speakers. Instead of them all speaking, if Mr. Garcia could give the speech for all of them so that they can come back and hold a press conference and we don't have to tie up the whole council with 100 people speaking.
Well, I'm going to afford Mr. Garcia, do you want to just speak representing the group?
It's fine.
So if you're going to speak, but see, Bill, so I'll let you speak.
For all those from the SEIU.
Thank you, Bill, for directing me in how to do my job.
You're a great president, I'll say that.
Michael.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable City Council people here this morning. We are here today to alert the City Council that our escalating dispute with aviation safeguards at LAX has reached a point where workers have no choice but to stage major work actions during the holiday season. This is not a choice that's been made lightly. Hard-working service workers are doing this to defend the standards they have fought for at the airport, and they're doing it for the families and to hold on to their family health care benefits. As you know, this fight began at the start of the year when Aviation Safeguard tore up the union contract it signed with over 400 LAX workers. Over the past year, Aviation Safeguards has rejected all efforts to resolve this dispute. The company has failed to comply with the city's living wage ordinance and has refused to meet with the National Mediation Board, the proper authority under the Railroad Act, to hear disputes between unions and employers. During that time, Aviation Safeguards has been playing games not only with its workers, it has also been playing games with the city, trying to find loopholes in the living wage and in the federal law to provide them a competitive advantage over responsible union contractors. This New York company, backed by the airlines, has been using every trick in the book to try to skirt LA's rules, run out the clock, and break the union at LAX. And in recent weeks, 9 activists who struck on May 1st have been fired from their jobs at Spirit Airport Services. By allowing the situation to continue, LAX is punishing the good contractors who play by the rules and provide health care for their employees, and emboldening those who want to break the rules, play by their own rules, and not provide health care for their workers. Union contractors at the airport can't afford to compete with AVSG. If it is allowed to continue playing by its own rules, if that happens, there will be no protection left for these workers, and the standards that these workers, have worked so hard to establish will be stripped away. Workers at LAX know it, and that's why they have been demonstrating week after week after week. They've had enough. We've had enough. Things at LAX have gotten out of control and will only escalate if the city refuses to act. Union and non-union workers are ready to take to the street and go out on strike for their children and their families. The city and the airport authority could end this now and avoid disruption at the airport. We're calling on the city to cancel Aviation Safeguard's license to operate at the airport. And one final point. I want every worker to know here that's sitting here with Aviation Safeguard that don't believe the deceit and the lies of the company. If there's a change of contractors at LAX, your job will be protected. You will go to work for the incoming contractor. And this is about the integrity of the living wage ordinance here. It's about protecting the spirit of the living wage, which was to provide health care benefits, family health care benefits, and a decent wage, and an opportunity to organize with the union of a choice, to fight for a better life. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, and thank all of the brothers and sisters from SEIU for coming down.
Thank you, Herb.
Thank you all. Thank you. Okay. Okay, no, wait. Michael, cool. No, let's chill on that. Okay. Okay, let me call Mr. Rosendahl.
Just a point of order. The 21st of November is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. And as you might know, last Thanksgiving, it was the #1 destination airport. We do not want to strike before Thanksgiving.
I understand. Thank you.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
next I want to call Donna Pearman. Donna Pearman, Dow House Dude, Alicia Ramirez, Ruth Sarnoff.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm Donna Perriman. Miriam tried to send her words by email to have it spoken here, but you wouldn't accommodate her. You need to accommodate the disabled. First, no on all propositions except 37, and especially vote no on J because it hurts local buses. Nobody but Eric Garcetti for mayor. Eric Garcetti is the only mayoral candidate that voted for the video conferencing for the voice of the San Fernando Valley. It's very much for the people in the San Fernando Valley. That's why I voted for Eric Garcetti for mayor, and why I don't vote for Dennis Zine for controller and Cardenese because they voted against the Valley's right to speak. The court should take away Matt Dowd's right to speak since he doesn't believe in people's right to speak in the Valley. Our video conferencing, and he doesn't believe the people's right to speak. We do have something to say, me and Miriam. We are effective. That's why they want to close us down. Matt Dowd, John Walsh, and David Salzberg are against Eric Garcetti because he believes in video conferencing. People running for mayoral should think of the 1 million plus in the Valley, and they should reopen our video conferencing. Only forward for video conferencing.
Thank you.
And I'll speak about it
Thank
later.
you.
But
Thank you. Now, we'll need translation on this one. Alicia Ramirez, Ruth Sarnoff, and Dow House Dude.
Yo le voy a interpretar lo que guste.
Lo que qué?
Es que ya se me olvidó, ya me dio. She's trying to remember what she's trying to say. Dígalo en español, yo se lo voy a interpretar al inglés. She needs to review something.
Okay, then why don't we go with Ruth Sarnoff? Come on, Dow House Dude. Dow House Dude, come on, let's go.
Hello again. This was a very, very difficult situation. It's an art housing here. Yep. And it's a bunch of nuts taking decisions on housing that are going nowhere. Nobody is housed. I heard the meeting about housing, and nobody's getting a place. But we're spending millions and billions of dollars. Let's get a program that works. Read my book, The United World of Free and Clear, where the people finance each other out of this mess, and we don't have any of your red tape to deal with. We can do it, but we have to get smart enough to override city council, state council, Washington council, etc. council, full of red tape. We got to cut the red tape. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Ramirez, you ready?
¿Ya está lista? Yo le vengo a decir que por favor nos ayuden a detener nuestras casas para atrás porque las hemos perdido. I come to ask you to please help us to keep our houses because we lost them. Y mucha gente estamos sin trabajo. To get our houses back. Many of us are without a job. Y no hemos podido para pagar la renta y necesitamos que alguien nos ayude a mantener nuestras casas con nosotros. And we need somebody to help us paying our rent. We need to be able to keep our homes, and we need help for that. Por favor, ayúdenos en lo que más puedan. Please help us as much as you can. Es todo, yo creo. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Ms. Sarnoff, if you please come forward. Followed by Isaac Nassimi. Yes.
Ruth Sarnoff with Occupy Fights Foreclosure, speaking on my own behalf today. I was fascinated by a headline in yesterday's LA Times Faces of subprime lending's legacy. A Southgate family faces eviction after 8 refinancings, balloon debt. It had a familiar ring to me. As a member of Occupy Fights Foreclosures, I have listened to homeowners' own personal stories about their mortgages at meetings and at Occupy support actions. The assault on homeowners by the banks is always the same story. Only the characters and circumstances differ, and it is an ugly story. A story about the ravishing of not only families but whole communities. I have information here. I have the article that I am referencing here, and I would like to put this in public record.
You.
Thank you.
Thank you. Isaac?
Yes, hi. I understand that the city is attempting to use eminent domain in order to solve the problem of the foreclosures. We at Occupy, we are very interested in that discussion. We would like to come to the table. We have ideas that I think can make the process much streamer, much more cost effective, and without using private money. So I urge you to invite us to the process. There is a lot to do there, and we can help forge a better solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer Garcia. Jennifer Garcia. Rafael Palomino. John Navidad. Joe Colon. Please go ahead. Jennifer?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Jennifer Garcia, and I have worked for Aviation Safeguards for 3 years. When SEIU was my representative and the living wage ordinance did not apply, I made $10 an hour. Now that SEIU is no longer represents me and the living wage ordinance applies, it guarantees $15.37 per hour. I have health care with my family, and my employer will not force me to take a second policy, but instead gives me the higher wage. The living wage has made a big difference in my life. It represents a 50% increase in my pay over what SEIU was giving me. There are many more stories like mine at Aviation Safeguards. There are 1,600 SEIU workers at LAX, and many of them earn less than the living wage requires. Why is SEIU not required to pay the living wage?
Thank you. Next. If you could identify yourself.
Rafael Palomino.
Okay. Please go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Rafael Palomino, and I have worked at LAX with Aviation Safeguards for almost 2 years now. In order to work at LAX, you need to pass an extensive background check. Once you do, you're issued a badge like this. When you watch an SEIU rally at LAX, you almost never see any of the protesters wearing a badge quite like this one. When you sit here today and you look into the audience of the SEIU members, you never see a badge like this. When you don't see a badge like this, you can't work at LAX. It's that simple. Would all those wearing a badge like this please stand up and be recognized? Funny, isn't it? No one who works at LAX is going to strike and shut down LAX before Thanksgiving. We wouldn't have a Thanksgiving.
Thank you, sir. Next. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is John Natividad, and I'm the Human Resources Manager for Aviation Safeguards. Just want to clear up one thing, well, basically one lie of many lies that the SEIU has been spreading. Today, Mr. Garcia stated that we've terminated 9 people because of their involvement with union activities, and I just want to clear that up. And I'm welcoming you to come to my office, look at the records that we have, and we will be able to show you that we have terminated 0 people as a result of their affiliation with the union. I think it's despicable for lies like that to be spread. It's just not true. It's my profession to make sure that people are treated fairly, and that's what we do. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Joe Conlon. I'm the Regional Vice President for Aviation Safeguards. A voluntary audit of the living wage compliance showed we pay our employees slightly above what is required. SEIU does not pay the living wage. I know this because 93% of our employees received a pay increase after they canceled the contract with the SEIU. That would not have happened if the SEIU was compliant with the living wage, but they don't have to be. Why is that? SEIU is not a recognized union in the eyes of the National Mediation Board. Therefore, there is no requirement to resolve any labor disputes with them. Before the employees canceled the SEIU's contract, I wrote 2 letters to Mike Garcia requesting to resolve this issue, but he ignored them. All the employees wanted was a living wage, but that was too much to ask of Mr. Garcia. When you ignore your members, they sign petitions and go away. Our employees are not the first workers at LAX to say no. Calip has also done the same thing. Any attempt to cancel our license to do business at LAX is an attempt to cancel 550 jobs. You should cancel the SEIU contract.
Thank you. Hey, Joe, that baby doesn't work for you, because you're violating child worker laws if that baby works for you. Next, I want to call on Lucy Caruso, Olga Hall, and Julia Moy. Please come forward. Don't be shy. Come on, let's go. And if you guys I really could use the space in the council chambers if I've let all of the people speak from SEIU or their one spokesperson, and if I let all of your people that I have cards for speak, if you could help me clear some space so I can bring in other people. Yes.
Good morning, Council President Wesson, Honorable City Council. My name is Julia Moy, and I'm the president of the Metropolitan Los Angeles branch of the American Society of Civil Engineers. Behind me are my fellow civil engineers. We are here today for our annual legislative day at City Hall. It is an opportunity for us to discuss the infrastructure topics in Los Angeles with our locally elected leaders. This morning, we released our Los Angeles 2012 ASCE Infrastructure Report Card in cooperation with Councilmember Buscaino's office, which assessed the existing condition of infrastructure in Los Angeles County. The report card breaks down infrastructure into 10 categories. These categories include bridges, dams, drinking water, flood control, ports, solid waste, and many other infrastructure items. We are meeting with all of your offices today to share these results with you, and for the public, these report cards are available at ascemlab.org. This year, Los Angeles section is celebrating 100 years of infrastructure improvements in Los Angeles, and civil engineers everywhere. We want to recognize them as well as thank the City of Los Angeles and the City Council for its infrastructure support.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. No, Ms. Caruso. Olga Hall, Rome Diesel, is it? Denzel, Matt Ward, come forward.
Good morning, Mr. President and members of the council. I'm here to remind you about the Southwest Museum. You need to keep that in mind. It needs to be safe. It's the first museum in Los Angeles. And Autry has not come to the table and worked with us. You appointed a working group, and Autry, as usual, drags their feet because and lets the clock run. You all are responsible. It's a city-wide issue. You all must push for the safety of the Southwest Museum. name and the all the wealth of the Southwest Museum should stay. And not only that, but it should be as a first-class museum. Please keep it in mind. It's all of your responsibility. It belongs to the city of LA.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Rome, Diesel, Matt Ward, Karen Berger, Matt Ward twice. Mike Check. I think this is William Wright Jr. Yes, identify yourself, please.
Yes, my name's Karen Berger. I'm from Occupy Fights Foreclosures. Thank you for looking into the solution to the foreclosure crisis. 84% of all foreclosures nationwide are illegal. We need an immediate moratorium on all foreclosures. We also need to look into RICO proceedings against the banks. Regarding eminent domain as a solution, my question is, who are mortgage resolution partners, and why would they seize homes that are not yet in default? How would they even determine which mortgages are likely to default? Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Check, Daniel Jones, Hector Vicente. Do you have a card in, sir?
Yes, I did.
And your name?
William Ira Scott Garwright Jr.
Yeah, I called you.
No, but she was at the podium. I couldn't walk over.
No, I called you before. William Wright. You want to argue or you want to get your minute? I called your name. I'm looking at your card right now.
Say again? I didn't hear you.
I'm looking at your card right now. I called your name.
All right.
Go ahead.
No problem. I came before the council. First of all, good morning to the clerks, city clerk, and the council, and the president of the council. I came in before. I was, prior to you being, I'm addressing this to Councilman Wesson, since he's the 1st District of Central City, and staff, thank you. The transportation project has been going on since Thomas Bradley, Honorary Dr. Bradley, and Ronald Reagan is the governor of the state of California, and me going to Louisiana Tech University. This project, since I am old enough and wise enough now to take my responsibility along, it brings forth finances. I had mapped it out. And the shelters that's going up and down Wilshire Boulevard, starting, I think, around Main Street. I was told that they said, Mr. Wright, those shelters can come up out the ground, but some of them are cemented.
Thank you.
So what I'm saying...
Thank you. That's your time. Okay. Yeah, only got a minute today. All right. Mr. City Attorney and Mr. Clerk, that closes general public comment for today. Arnold, I did not have a card on you. Come forward. I do not see a card on you, Mr. Sachs. But please come forward.
Thank you. Good morning. Arnold Sachs. Sorry I missed so many meetings. Been doing some other things. But I did want to bring up, because Measure J is going to be on the ballot, an interesting bit of information that came from MTA on the October 17th Finance and Budget Audit Committee fiscal recap of 2012. According to this document, MTA budgeted $605 million for Measure R funds for fiscal year 2012, which is $395 million less than the $1 billion the mayor said Measure R would make. So what about the difference? What is City Council doing to address the difference? Who's looking at that? You want to vote for Measure J, you're $395 million in the hole according to what's budgeted. What's accepted puts you $355 million in the hole.
Thank you.
When do they make $1 billion?
Thank you, Arnold. Matt Ward, are you here now? Matt? Okay, because I did call you.
All right. My name is Matt Ward, and I'm with Occupy Fights Foreclosures and Occupy Los Angeles. Councilman Alarcon has submitted an idea here to use eminent domain to buy up possibly distressed mortgages. And I wanted to draw your attention to some of the specifics within the language that suggests that this is going to be a terrible idea. The government's once securing the loan notes would modify the loans to current market value. The problem with this is that within the order of the process, these properties have already been seized at this point, and money has already been funded from the banks. That then constitutes a new loan. And the language of this suggests that new notes will be generated for properties that may not currently have notes intact because they have been securitized and sold to multiple people. The Homeowners Bill of Rights, which goes into effect on January 1st, allows for homeowners to challenge the chain of title for their property, and this will prevent that from occurring because new notes will be issued.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Mr. Alarcon.
Mr. Chair, I just want to clarify that the motion that he refers to is talking about people who are still in their homes, not people who've already been foreclosed on.
Okay, thank you. Go to item 24. I've got a card from, I think it's Michael Davies. Please come forward.
Thank you. I realize item 24 is receive and file, but I wanted to thank Council members Englander and Buscaino to try to shed some light on the current problem with the backlog and fingerprint area. EAA represents the vast majority of civilian employees at LAPD in scientific investigations, forensic print specialists in particular. They've been starved of resources for years. They are placed in a building that should have been condemned years ago, which is Parker Center. There's no shock that there's a backlog in getting to evidence, and I'm hoping very soon we can come to some solutions to protect those resources, value these employees, and attack this backlog. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Sachs, I was going to call an item that you held special next. Okay. On this item, then, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay. Now I'm going to move to item 1, which was called special by Mr. Sachs.
Yes, thank you again, Arnold Sachs. I did call this special. Again, it's a lien. And if you might have read today's newspaper, there was a column regarding cuts about the budget that are being proposed by the CAO. The mayor and the city council. CAO is requesting 2 new taxes. The mayor is saying you need to collect the money that you have outstanding before you consider 2 new taxes. So again, my point is, and as a gentleman mentioned regarding foreclosures, the city has on its books a $1,000 fine for homes that have gone into foreclosure that have become uninhabitable, that the banks that the city council now wants to do business with that own these foreclosed homes are supposed to pay $1,000 a day per home. So while you're busy collecting 37 cents on a lien, you're allowing $1,000 to go down the drain.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Thank you. So on this item, let's open the roll.
And excuse me, Mr. President, again, this we have a request from the department to receive and file this matter.
Well, why don't we just do that, so without objection?
Very good, sir.
Okay, so we don't have to vote on the item. Okay, now what we're going to do, I would like to make a request of those of you that are here from SEIU, if you are finished, if you would please consider giving up your seats. We're going to take up an item 25, and there are people outside waiting to get in on that item. I do believe Mr. Garcia is finishing up a press conference, but you would free up a lot of seats for a lot of people who would like to come and hear item 25 discussed. Am I not correct, Mr. Koretz? Well, we'll move to item 25. Oh, could you please translate what I just said? Where's our translator? I noticed that nobody moved. Hey, Mr. Weezer, why don't you help a brother out? Basically, help SEIU's issue is over, and I was asking if they would leave so that we can allow people to come in to hear item 25, and we need a translator for that. And ours went to powder her nose, I think.
I could do that. So, amigos y amigas, tenemos gente que tiene que entrar. Si el asunto de ustedes ya se acabó, si nos pueden hacer el favor también para levantarse y hacer campo para los otros, o no sé lo que tienen en mente, pero es lo que dice el presidente. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Mr. Weezer, and thank you, SEIU. Thank you so very much. You're clearing up a lot of space. We'll be able to bring in a lot of people. Thank you so very, very much. Mr. Koretz, you might want to have somebody from your staff start ushering in people so that we can hear item 25. We're going to go to item 25, and it's my understanding that we're going to have a 15-minute hearing on that, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Reyes.
Okay. So we have item 25 in front of us. Councilor Koretz, your name's on the queue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. The labeling of genetically engineered food products is an idea whose time has come in California. Despite massive public support for labeling, federal regulators, many of whom are former executives from the same companies they're supposed to be scrutinizing, have done nothing. Are there health consequences to eating genetically modified foods? We don't really know because the companies who own them claim patent protection and refuse any independent studies. When the state or federal government can't or won't act on a certain issue, it's up to the people to act for themselves. That's why we have ballot initiatives. Prop 37 has grown starting from one feisty grandmother in Chico into an enormous people's movement of Californians working together for a common cause. As any of us who watch TV or listen to the radio lately, they're facing a massive $40 million disinformation campaign. The opposition has portrayed their so-called lead scientist in their TV campaign as a Stanford University professor, and ended up having to yank those commercials and change the ad when Stanford protested that lie. That and the many other deceptive tactics the opposition has been using are exactly the reasons we need to weigh in and support the David and Goliath fight that many of our constituents are engaged in. And now I'd like to give them the opportunity if we could hear from them.
Okay. So... Okay, we have quite a list of speakers. What we'll do is we'll go 15 minutes. And the remaining folks who do not get within the 15 minutes will have to stand to demonstrate their support. So with that, we will go 1 minute each. We'll start with, I believe it's Renee Ubolt with Pret A. Manage. I apologize, I butchered your name. Bruce Palma, Sahaja Douglas, and Ashley Kiff. Come on up, please. If I called your name. If you speak from the microphone, 1 minute each.
Thank you. Good morning again, council members. It's Pret A Manger. It's a French name, but it's a British company. Thank you for having me speak on this issue. I just wanted to kind of convey to you some of the challenges that the private sector has around the issue of genetically modified organisms being labeled. We have a long-standing no GMO policy with Pret A Manger, a company that started 25 years ago in the United Kingdom. And as we are now operating restaurants here in the United States, we are not able to actually enforce that policy because we can't determine which ingredients have genetically modified organisms or not. And so I guess from an unbiased place of whether it's good for you or bad for you, it simply would be brilliant to be able to purchase the way we would like to purchase with just the information of knowing. And so I would like to request your support for Prop 37 so that we can actually purchase the way we would like. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please. Give us your name.
Thank you. My name is Bruce Palma, General Manager of Co-Opportunity Natural Foods in Santa Monica. Our mission is completely in alignment with the theme of today. And as a grocer over 27 years, I see no evidence that there will be food prices increasing from a simple label being put on a package. All products that are packaged have nutritional information, caloric information, allergen information. All this proposition is asking for is that one simple line of type be added. Companies change labels every 6 to 12 months. They have 18 months to change the label, and consumers have a right to know. I know our customers definitely want to know what's in their products, regardless of the eventual outcome of the safety or not. There's too many questions, and we respectfully ask you to support this proposition. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, council members. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Sahaja Douglas. I live in Los Angeles, and I'm the mother of two beautiful boys, 9 and 13 years old. And I, like Councilman Rosendahl, believe that the food that they eat greatly affects their health. I read labels very carefully, and I'm really disturbed because 80% of the food out there is genetically modified, and yet I can't read it on the labels, so I can't protect them. The FDA doesn't regulate it, and the biotech industry is so powerful that they're able to create laws with the lobbying money and the campaign contributions they make, and it's not fair. I want to know what my boys are eating. I have a right to know. It's America. They're labeled in 61 other countries, including China, but not here in America. California mothers are saying, please, let us protect our children. Let us safeguard their health. Allergies increased since 1996, since GMOs have been introduced. Obesity, diabetes, cancers. The most recent French study shows huge mammary tumors, liver and kidney failure. I want my boys to continue to be healthy. I need to know what they're eating if I'm going to do my job. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Thank you. Thank you. My name's Ashley Koff. I'm a registered dietitian in practice here in Los Angeles and also a member of the national media. And thank you. I wanted to take this opportunity just to echo everything that's been said, but also to speak from the standpoint of practitioners. I recommend that people look to reduce their levels of GMOs, and then they tell me that the only opportunity to do so is to consume organic food, which we know access and cost can sometimes be a challenge. This is not New York City. We are not asking for a ban. We are asking for the opportunity to have a label, and that allows me to teach people to make choices for themselves, which empower them. So I'm asking you to help me help everyone else in making that decision for themselves. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kip Stroden. I'm CEO of a company called Essential Living Foods. We're based in Culver City. We employ 33 people at our company, and we're a certified organic importer of foods. We import from all over the world, so we're an international company. And I'm asking the council to support yes on 37. It's just very, very important for consumers to be aware of the contents of their food, and it does not cost a company like us anything to label our food accurately. So what we're seeing on the commercials right now is false information being projected by Monsanto and the other companies funding those commercials. There is no additional cost to us, and actually we would save money if 37 yes on 37. So please support this. It's very, very important, and consumers have the right to know.
Thank you very much. Our next group of speakers, Caroline Muniz, Karen Mangini, Jim Montgomery, Marlon Doc Damero, Karen Sartorio, I believe. Please come on up, line up on the microphone. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, and thank you for your time. My name is Carla Muniz. I am a constituent, a taxpayer, a wife, a mother, a teacher, a healthcare practitioner, and an independent medical researcher for over 30 years. What I have seen involving GMOs and the outcome of our health because of eating them has appalled me. I believe that every citizen in California has to have the right to choose what they're going to put on their table. I also teach middle school and high school children nutrition and healthy lifestyle here in Los Angeles, and it's very difficult for me to have them avoid GMOs when they cannot tell it's in their food. This is something that is very important to each and every one of us here. All we're asking is that you support the labeling. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, my name is Karen Mangini, and GMOs are being brought to us by Monsanto, the same company that brought us DDT and Agent Orange and aspartame, and they said that was all safe. They also said it would save the world. It would feed the world, and it's not cost effective anymore because there are strains of worms and pests that have become resistant to the Roundup Ready. Since 1996-97, I had severe indigestion, and I found out that was right about the same time that Monsanto came out with their Roundup Ready, where they're blasting into the DNA a pesticide that grows within the plant, and that's different than what they used to do. It was just cross-pollinating. And it changes the DNA. In order to make it stick, they put in a virus or a bacteria. It breaks open the cell wall of the worm or the pest, and that's what it's doing to our stomachs. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Jim Montgomery, and Councilmember Tourette's, you're my new hero. Thank you. Everything he said, I want to amplify. 15 months now, I've been donating my time as a private citizen, leading a group of wonderful volunteers down in Torrance, South Bay area, to first get 971,000 signatures to get this on the ballot. And now we've been on the streets daily trying to raise awareness for this, trying to counteract the $40 million in lies we see all the time. So what I'm here for today is to please ask you to be our heroes, be our supporters. How the Los Angeles City Council votes today matters, and we need your help. I just got to say, everyone we talk to, when they find out about what GMOs are, those that don't know, are horrified, and they say, please do all you can. They thank us. So please help us today. Help us get GMOs labeled. Please endorse Prop 37. Thank you all very much for your time and your support.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Come on up. Next speaker. Did we call your names? Okay, we have Connie Sablin. Connie, come on up. The two gentlemen that are standing, did we call your name?
We're the last two.
No. Come on up and speak, please. If I called your name, come on up.
Well, I heard my name, and I'm just like other folks here that I feel like I'm on the positive side of life. And if you look at the track record of Monsanto, it speaks for itself that they don't care. The only thing is that this is multi-billion-dollar don't care. We have a city here, multicultural for sure, and I can simply say, let's follow the example of Trader Joe's, and I have the email for documentation from last week. All Trader Joe items with their name on it, excepting meats, are no GMO by deep research, and that's an email I can show anybody. If Trader Joe's, which started with that man Joe and his wife over in Arroyo Parkway in Pasadena, if they set an example like that, our beautiful city needs to set that example. That's it.
Can you give us your name, please? Your name?
Damero.
Thank you. Thank you.
Damero.
Please. Thank you very much. Next speaker, come on up. Okay. Please speak. Go ahead.
My name is Connie Salen, and I'm basically here to tell you that I would like to find out what's in my food. Back in the mid-'80s, I heard about GMOs, thought it was an absolute joke that they were going to put pig genes in my tomatoes, and 10 years later, I found out that it had been on our table for quite some time. It's been 20 years that GMOs have been on our table now, and we're just now getting aware of it more widely, and there's been a lot of illnesses increased in the last 20 years. And several doctors have told me that there's possibility of a good connection, but they wouldn't swear by it. No studies have been done with people, so we're kind of in the dark there. So just thank you very much for your support and letting us know how to keep our children healthy.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you. So the names that I did call were Jim Montgomery, Karen Sartorio, if you're here, Jim Montgomery. Okay, you already spoke, all right. Corinna Gaslam, Lemon Fan, and Anne Shabte. Please come on up. Yeah. Please give us your name.
Hi, my name's Karina. I live in Wilmington, District 15. Yeah. I just wanted to say that my daughter recently got sick. And as soon as I took GMOs out of her diet, she had gastrointestinal problems. As soon as I took them out, they disappeared. So now we're on an organic, non-GMO certified diet, and she's completely fine, no medication anymore. And I just would like to urge the council to endorse Proposition 37 so we all know what's in our food. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, good morning, council members. My name is Ann Shabte. I'm here today as a mother, grandmother, teacher, and volunteer, and I'm here to ask for your support on Prop 37. All of the issues addressed here today with regard to health and healthy food choices are important. Healthy food issues need to be the issue. Labeling our food, Prop 37, gives us the right to choose healthy, and we need to do that. 61 countries worldwide already have that right, and they label GMOs. We Americans should have that same basic right. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker.
My name is Lehman, and I'm here in support of Prop 37. I believe it fairly protects all of our rights, whether we like GMOs or not, because it doesn't tell us what to do. It just tells us what something is. And calling something what it is a normal thing to do, to give people information to make their own informed choices. This is not just about food. This is about freedom and people. Laws are supposed to protect the freedoms of the people. And when I say people, I don't mean corporations. As you take a look at this issue, I hope you stand on the side of the people and free choices. Please endorse Prop 37. It's our right to know. Thank you.
Would someone please adjust the microphone? There you go. Great job. Please give us your name.
Hi, my name is Rowan Diesel. And
Hello, Roman. Can we just hold his time, please? Let's start his 1 minute again.
Hi, Hi, my name is Rome Diesel, and I'm 8 years old. My mother, who is here with me, does everything she can to buy me the healthiest foods possible. She knows, and so do I. Because of her, that things like MSG, sodium nitrate, high fructose corn syrup, BHT, food coloring, artificial preservatives, and now GMOs are all bad for us. Most all those things that I just listed for you are on the labels of foods that we buy. So my mom can choose not to buy the foods that she knows are not good for me. However, foods containing GMOs are not listed. This is a problem. Some of my friends have food allergies and cannot eat certain things. They have found that foods containing GMOs make them feel pretty sick. So they try to avoid them. But because GMOs are not labeled, all that anyone can really do to avoid them is to buy organic. However, we believe that there are some very...
Go ahead and finish. Go ahead and finish.
Go ahead and finish. We believe that there are some very good non-organic foods too, and we would buy them if we knew everything that is in them, not just partially what is in them. I'm here today to ask the City Council to please endorse Proposition 37. Label GMO so that my mom can know what she's buying and so that all the moms out there can make the best choices for their children. Think of it as
Okay. He's about to conclude. Please finish.
It's an insurance policy, ensuring the health of all future generations to come. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. Great job. Excellent. That was wonderful. Okay, our last speaker on those supporting 37 is Dave Murphy. Dave Murphy, our last speaker.
Hi, thank you very much. My name is Dave Murphy. I'm the co-chair for the California Right to Know campaign to label genetically engineered food. It's always hard to follow a child actor, but I'll do my best. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today. It's an absolute honor to have the LA City Council consider this important resolution, not only for the people of California, but the people of the United States. You know, we're here to talk about two things, food and democracy. Both are sacred to all Americans. And we have rights pertaining to each one of these. Right now, we're trying to get a label on genetically engineered foods because we think that the science behind this needs to be done better. We also think the corporations don't have the right to buy our democracy. Right now, the other side is putting $40 million to defeat a grassroots, a powerful grassroots movement of California mothers and grandmothers, farmers and doctors and lawyers. We absolutely appreciate your vote, yes, on 37 to label genetically engineered foods. The whole world is watching California right now. This is the most important election in 2012. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Public hearings require that we hear both sides of the issue. But before we hear the other side, those folks who did sign a card and did not get called, please stand to show your support. And I thank you for your patience. The sergeant wants to make sure he appreciates your patience while waiting outside in the hallway. Thank you very much. Now let's hear from the alternate side. We have Andrew Mazar. Andrew, are you here? And Evelyn Mazar, please come on up. Last call, Evelyn Mazar and Andrew Mazar, are you here? M-A-Z-O-R. Okay. Anyone else here that is on the opposing side that we did not call? All right. Okay, then that will close public hearing, and we'll move to our colleagues that are on the queue. And we do have with us Councilmember Perry, then Councilmember Garcetti. Councilmember Perry. Councilmember Perry?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I just wanted to say that I wanted to rise today to support Prop 37. I think information is power. You know, as consumers, we're consuming things like corn and soy and products made from them, and we don't know when we're doing it all the time. And so I think Prop 37 will go a long way to changing that just by the simple act of putting a label and the added step of prohibiting products from being labeled as natural. We do have the right to know. We do have the right to know. We have the right to make informed choices about whether we wish to eat or buy these products. Doing so allows us to make our own choice. We're not alone in this effort. 40 countries with over 40% of the world's population already label genetically engineered foods. So California has always been synonymous with a healthy lifestyle, and we can take the lead again by passing Proposition 37. It just makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Folks, I realize we're very enthusiastic and it's great spirit. We have about 5 more folks in the queue, and we can get to your vote sooner. It's up to you. Councilmember Garcetti.
Thank you, Mr. President. I say get enthusiastic. This is something to be enthusiastic about. I am rising in strong support of this today. It would be a contradiction, having just declared Food Day here in Los Angeles, it would go against the very same policies we just put forward to somehow say that we didn't want to have this information. We label our toys. We have information at gas stations. We are warned of our health risks and other information everywhere we go. What are we so afraid of here? It is time for us to be able to know where our food comes from and to maybe be able to have more local food, because we have food that crosses oceans to come here, and we have no idea what the worker conditions are, how the food was created, and what sort of manipulation has gone into the creation of that food as well. We have tens of thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years of nature against those who would suddenly change it without knowing what has happened. So this is something that we need to rise up for and make sure. We today declared that this was not only a town that would stand for just food, but we looked, as I pointed out here, at our roots here in Los Angeles. This was settled as an agricultural place first and foremost. And it's time for us to return to those roots. It's time for us, I'm glad Ms. Perry said it, I was going to say because Mr. Labange is not here. He always says that information is knowledge, is power. Let us bring the power back to the people, and let's pass Prop 37. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speakers are Councilman Rosendahl and Councilman Zine.
Thank you very much. It's obviously a no-brainer. The more we know about what we put in our mouths, the better off we are. So, of course, we're going to vote yes. And it's nice to see the 2 mayor candidates in the room on the same wavelength. It's great that we're moving in the right leadership direction on this. Yes on the Prop 37.
Councilmember Zine. Then Councilman Alarcon.
Get ready to applaud. We're supposed to be an open, transparent society. We're supposed to have a government that protects us. The Food and Drug Administration is supposed to protect us. When you go into a restaurant now, they have the calorie count. I don't know if the restaurants like that, but as a consumer, I like to know what calories there are in the food. This should be a federal law. This shouldn't be a state law. This should be a federal law. And it doesn't matter if you're in California or in Colorado or in Arizona or some other state in this United States of America, the same rules should apply everywhere when it comes to the consumer's right to know and the consumer's right to choice. So I can't understand the opposite side that says we don't want to do it. We want to keep it hidden. We want genetically engineered. We want to manufacture things that may harm people. What we need to do is push this not only in this level of state of California. We need to take this to a national level and push the national folks to do it.
Thank you. Councilman Alarcon. And then we'll have Councilman Huizar.
You know, as somebody who is allergic to peanuts, I find this an easy one to resolve. But also, my 4-year-old daughter had a little touch of asthma a couple of weeks ago, and it puts it in focus what we're talking about here. Now, I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, the jury is still out on genetically manipulated foods. You have your own opinion. I'm expressing mine. Excuse me. Excuse me.
Please, this is not a
Excuse me.
debate. Please, you're disrupting the meeting. Thank you.
You know, when an elected official tries to speak honestly, you shouldn't shut them down.
Please.
Wow. Especially when they're going to support your position, you know, that's just plain dumb. To repeat, what I said is that I am not completely sure that all genetically manipulated foods are bad. I think we have a lot to learn, however, and I see no reason why we shouldn't know more about it. I certainly want to know because I do have children. And I think that you know, I think that we're going to find that some is absolutely bad and some is acceptable. I don't know, but the bottom line is that I want to know what I'm eating. And you know, when my wife cooks fresh food at home, you know, it's no problem. We know, in fact, she grows in her garden all kinds of stuff, and we eat it, and we know what we're eating. But when we shop and you look at a label and you're wondering, well, what is in this stuff, or you buy stuff that it doesn't even look like food, you got to wonder what's in that stuff. Now, it's hard for people to avoid this food. It's hard for kids to go into a store and avoid all of these kinds of foods that may be harmful to them. And so it is absolutely critical that we get the information that will enable us to make a decision about what we want to eat. Now, I can eat peanuts, and I do eat peanuts. I just shouldn't eat them, you know, 3 days in a row, or otherwise I start feeling weird. But we know that the rates of asthma, particularly in the Northeast San Fernando Valley, are growing. And in society in general, they are growing. Almost, I think it's something like 30% of all kids have asthma, and that's probably triple what it was when I was a kid. And so it is something that we clearly need to understand. And I don't think this is too much to ask. And by the way, when we've done things like this in the past, all the things that the opponents are saying are going to happen didn't happen. There weren't massive lawsuits. There weren't people who suffered. You know, this is all hyperbole. The opposing side is all hyperbole, and we need to support this in good governance.
Thank you, sir. Okay, our next speaker is Councilor Huizar and then Councilor Koretz.
But first, I want to say thank you to everyone who came out in support of this. You're passionate, engaged, informed, and it's great to see that people are so involved, not only for your own well-being, but really looking out for the rest of California. That's something to be commended. So thank you for being here this morning. And, you know, it's presumptuous by some to say that consumers don't care. Consumers do care. You know, it's not the same old day when we would rush in our supermarkets or our local stores and just grab whatever was on the shelf. You see people really taking their time now and getting informed about what they're purchasing, getting on the web and thinking about how they'll feed their children. It's a different age, and consumers do care. So providing them the information, giving them a choice makes sense. It's going with the trend that we are more informed consumers, and we want those choices at our supermarkets. So thank you so much. Like my good friend Bill Rosendahl said, this is a no-brainer. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Koretz.
I just want to amplify on what Mr. Alarcon said. There's strong precedent to Prop 37 in the United States in the 2004 Food Allergen Act, which protects consumers by requiring labels of possible allergens like peanuts and soy and dairy. When Congress considered this issue, the same exact companies that are opposed to Prop 37 went crazy in opposition. You would have thought the sky was falling, and yet when the act went into force, stores and companies complied rather easily, prices remained stable, there was not excessive litigation, and consumers had critical information with which to protect themselves and their health. And we've all seen the labels that say this product was made on equipment which may have touched peanuts. And most people probably think the companies provided that information voluntarily because it makes so much sense. But they went kicking and screaming just like they are now in opposition to Prop 37. I want to point out that a number of our neighborhood councils have already voted in support of Prop 37. Mar Vista, Palms, Westside, Greater Griffith Park, Granada Hills South, South Robertson, and others. And those hardworking volunteers that make up those neighborhood councils and the hardworking volunteers that you've heard from today, and thank you all for being here. We all appreciate it. These are our friends and neighbors, and they need and deserve all the support they can to get the information that's critical to protect all of our health. And so please support Prop 37, and thank you for the leadership that I know my colleagues that you're going to provide on this critical issue.
Thank you, Councilor Koretz. Before we go to the vote, I just wanted to reiterate what the Sergeant of Arms wanted to express, and that is thank you for your patience. I know you had to wait outside in the hallway, the rotunda, and we appreciate your patience as we move this item along. So that being said, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That measure passes. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. City Clerk, what's the next item?
Mr. President, that brings us to item number 7, called special for Councilmember Zine.
Okay, do we have Councilmember Zine?
I'm sure there's a number of speakers on this matter, Mr. Chair. If we can have them speak before we take up the item. This is on the health care for our city employees.
Let's just...
You want to call the cards and then we can go into it. We've had other discussions on this matter. A lot of concern. I think we should have consideration for the city employees who have been here most of the day.
Mr. President, there has been a report from the Personnel Department. It has been circulated. It's item number 7 before the members. If adopted, that recommendation, or that change rather, to the item previously as agendized would reopen public hearing for this matter.
So, Councilmember Zine, we do have several cards on the side.
Yes,
I want to hear from the public first.
I'd like to go with the cards. Most of them, if not all, are city employees. This affects them, and some in a very dramatic case financially on the plan that will affect the hospital at UCLA and Cedars. So those that are here from the city employees, I'd like to hear from them first. They can make their statements before we take consideration on this matter.
Okay, we will do that. We have Donna Pierman. Donna Pierman, are you here? Michael Davies. Is Donna Pierman here? I don't see. Then we have Hugo Rossiter. Mr. Davies, please.
Yes, thank you. Once again, representing Engineers and Architects Association, what I wanted to get before the council is approximately 1 in 5 of the civilian employees contribute to the cost of their health care premiums. Vast majority of those are EAA members. One of the justifications for paying that contribution was to preserve choice and quality in terms of the health care options available to city employees. It's very sad to note that within the 3rd year of paying that contribution, we're already looking at narrow network. Only at the last minute did we preserve the Blue Cross PPO with a full network, and now the HMO is being offered at almost cost prohibitive for our members. What this points to is that next year, when the negotiations start and the bids come in, city really needs to exercise far greater leverage in its dealings with healthcare providers in terms of getting the best deal for the city as employer and for its employees, and preserving, again, choice and quality. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davies. Hugo Rossiter, and then we'll have Donna Perman. Good day, sir.
Good morning. I'm Hugo Rossiter, Deputy City Attorney. Less than 4 weeks ago, thousands of city employees and their dependents learned that their current Anthem Blue Cross medical coverage would change drastically on January 1st, 2013. Their genuine concerns, particularly those whose family members are receiving unique treatment at UCLA and Cedars-Sinai medical centers, caused us to ask the Council Pause Committee and the JLMBC to take a second look at the proposed changes. The recommendation before you today is a great improvement. It restores access to vitally needed medical providers with no disruption of coverage and no additional cost to the city and no $500,000 cost of a second re-enrollment period. Thanks all around to the combined efforts of Council members Koretz, Alarcon, Zine, and their staff, all the Council for their concern, the City Personnel Department and Employee Benefits Division, Anthem Blue Cross, and the facilitating efforts, particularly of Marita Aspen of the CAO process. Thank you again.
Thank you. Donna Perlman.
Correction, I'm a public. I meant to say only Matt Dowd's against the Eric Garcetti video conferencing. Anyway, and if we had the video conferencing in Van Nuys, Miriam could have spoken on it. Anyway, you'd have a large parking tax that you have a lot of collections that that haven't collected. So you need to get those, and you don't need to go into workers' benefits. They should not ratify it. So I need to tell all unions, don't vote for it. We don't need raises. The city employees are these employees are happy what they have. No concessions.
Can you please focus on the item today?
We need to keep their health benefits.
Okay.
They paid for the 4%. So, and I believe that it will be a lot better to have health benefits that would have preventative care that would take so that they wouldn't get bad health in the first place. Motherfucker. Okay. Anyway, I can't concentrate anymore. So, just
Thank you,
find
Ms.
out real
Perlman.
fast. Hello? I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry, Ms. Perlman. This is public comment.
Her comments are officially irrelevant right now.
Her comments are. Thank you very much. All right, our next speaker, Ann Reynolds, Holly Walcott, and Onika Cole. Ann Reynolds, are you here? Ann Reynolds? Okay. Holly Walcott? Holly, are you here?
Good morning. A couple of weeks ago, Holly Walcott, employee of the City of Los Angeles. A couple of weeks ago, I told you I was a breast cancer survivor, and I'm not here to repeat my story. I am here to talk about math. The chart provided by the Personnel Department at the last hearing showed the premium cost per provider. The status quo per capita for the Blue Cross plans was still less than the revised Kaiser plan. The proposal divides out to show that the city will pay $12,164 per employee at average for Kaiser, but at least $100 less for each Blue Cross subscribed member. But HMO members, you need to pay more, even though the city is paying more for Kaiser subscribed employees. That's what I think is inherently unfair. I challenge the idea that services at UCLA and Cedars cost more, which is why we need to narrow the network. My colon procedure would have required surgery to remove a part of my colon and reattach the two sides if I did not have the specialist I have at Cedars. There are only a handful of doctors in the country that perform this procedure. A surgery would be way more expensive than the outpatient procedure that I will have to undergo. So on a go-forward basis, I echo some of the previous speakers. We need to relook at this issue as we negotiate future contracts.
Thank you, ma'am. Onika Cole.
Good morning. My name is Annika Cole,
and I've been a deputy city attorney for 10 years. I'm a representative also of my union board, MOU 29. I've been a wife for 3 years, married to LAPD, and a mother for 2 years. And I come here today to say thank you. I want to say thank you for restoring the PPO. I want to say thank you for listening and caring. I want to say thank you for having a conversation with us. Sometimes we didn't always mind our manners, but my members are very, very concerned about their health care benefits. My MOU, approximately 72% are in either the Blue Cross PPO or the HMO plan. And so they were very concerned about the changes. I say thank you to CAO's office, particularly Marita Aspen, for having a dialogue with us about the letter of agreement. I want to ask, though, that you continue working with us to push back on the cost to our HMO members. Right now, for the full network, my members are paying $0 for a family. And now you're asking them to pay more than $600. Mr. Alarcon, that is actually a real family, a husband and wife and children, that is being asked to pay more than $600 a month for health care benefits. I also asked for a little bit more time. I understand that the recommendation today is going to be to cut the open enrollment time on November 15th. But my members need more time because they're still confused about what's changing and how much it's going to cost them. So I ask that you give us the original additional 2-week extension that I believe the City Council approved on October 10th. I say thank you for helping my members and listening to us and accepting that we want to work with the city to keep our benefits intact. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ann Reynolds for the last time. Okay, that's the last card. And Councilmember Zine, would like to hear from the report.
Thank you. Well, here's the problem. For those that want to go to UCLA or Cedars, family, wife, 2 children, and a working spouse, currently they pay $73.18 a month, going up to $674, 925% increase, which is quite dramatic with the increase for the subscriber. So what we're trying to do with this, I know we've gone through committee, we've come to council, what we're trying to do is take care of the employees' health issues. Those that are currently at UCLA, currently at Cedars, currently are going through treatment, that can't afford this 925% increase in the premium, how do we take care of those folks? Yes, they can keep on this plan, but they're going from $73 to $674, which is absolutely outrageous. How do we maintain the care and comfort for them and their families without that additional cost? And I know we're going to come in with a new RFP, and hopefully the new RFP will bring the rates down, because how Kaiser ends up outpacing everyone else in the rate amazes me, because Kaiser's always been lower than the other programs. Well, we've always been told that they meet the Kaiser rate. I'm sorry, Blue Cross and whatever it was over the years have always been higher, and Kaiser was lower. Now Kaiser's higher. Kaiser's lower, Kaiser's higher.
Excuse me, just for clarification, Kaiser is the highest HMO, but in the history, in the last 10 years, Kaiser, at least half of those years, has probably been the highest.
But I think we as consumers have always thought that when you take a HMO plan with Blue Cross or something else, you'd pay more and it'd be a more expensive rate. I know Kaiser's gone through a lot of changes, and I don't want to debate the fact that Kaiser has good health care or not, but the concern is for these folks that are caught in this particular situation, how do we then manage their health care at a level that's reasonable without saying you're going to have to pay $674 when you're now paying $73? How do we do that, and what do we do for these folks? That's the key. I mean, I know we're going through a transition. I know we're going to do a new RFP. We're going to get, hopefully, additional coverage down the road. But what do we do in this period of time that we're involved in this, and how do we then manage for city employees that aren't getting pay raises, that some have furloughs? How do we manage that increase of 925%, which is absolutely phenomenal? Phenomenal bad, not phenomenal good. So if you could explain that and what options they have.
Well, basically, what the council directed us to do was to go back and see if we could add another HMO, the full network HMO as an option for employees alongside of the select HMO network. And we did. The rates that we got back from Blue Cross are 52% higher than the select HMO network. At the JLNBC meeting, it was actually the labor motion to be able to offer this HMO alongside and have the employees pick up the differential cost between the narrow network and the full network. So the cost for a family, if they select the HMO full network, will be approximately $615 a month. The other option for the employee is to select the PPO plan. It has a lower premium cost of $316 a month, or they can continue to be in the select network, which does not have a premium cost, but obviously what that means is employees will have to select another doctor, or they can join the Kaiser plan. So those are basically the options the employee has. If they go into the PPO plan, they're obviously going to be out-of-pocket costs, but each individual will have to weigh that option against paying the premiums and not having significant out-of-pocket costs. During the open enrollment process that we're extending to November 15th, we plan to communicate these options to employees in a variety of different ways and offer to help employees through this decision-making process, because obviously it's something that they haven't been confronted with in the past, and so they're going to have to make this choice. And we're willing to sit down with them. They can sit down with personnel department staff or Anthem representatives to weigh their options.
Councilman Stein, please.
Pardon me?
Can you push the button again? I know you have more questions. We have several speakers on the queue.
All right, okay.
Okay, thank you, sir. Councilman Garcetti, then Councilman Koretz, and Councilman Rosendahl.
Thank you. Could you just walk me through something in the chart with the scenarios? The decision here on if the city's contribution on Kaiser HMO and Anthem PPO is higher than it is for the Anthem full HMO. Is there any reason why in that particular plan, when people are already picking up an additional amount, that we subsidize that less? In other words, why isn't the subsidy similar, and so then the amount the employees pick up is still more, but slightly less than what we have in the chart?
Sure. The subsidy that's paid currently for most of the MOUs is tied to the Kaiser family rate, and that's codified in the MOUs. So when the option to add the second HMO or the full HMO, the proposal at the JLNBC was that employees pay the differential cost, so that basically they would not be getting the 1,305 Kaiser family rate if they choose that plan. What they're going to pay is the differential cost between the narrow network and the full network, and those are the rates reflected on the report.
It just strikes me as uneven. I can understand the narrow one, that we wouldn't want to over-subsidize it because it's lower than the actual rate. The 1,300 is higher than 1,776. But on the other one, when we already put in 1,305 for the Anthem PPO, we put in 1,305 for the Kaiser HMO, that we'd make families pick up $615. It's already more expensive. We know that. That's a choice they can make at $1,792. It just would seem to be more equitable to keep that same rate in there.
Yeah,
And I think I should
Yeah, if I
point
can
out-
add,
Sure.
that was designed basically so the city could still maintain the savings that it had initially proposed, the $7 million. And I should probably ask Marita Aspen to give an update, because this is the very issue that was negotiated, and she can give an update on her
Is this
negotiation.
direction from our bargaining units? But that's where they'd rather have the savings?
I'm sorry?
Was that from our bargaining units, that that's where they'd rather have the savings?
Well, I mean, that was part of what the JLNBC decided, was in order to get these savings that we needed to have this particular structure. You'll notice that some of the costs are going down for some of the other plans that we've been offering. And what David was referring to is in order to do this, we had to have an agreement with each one of the labor organizations to say, notwithstanding what's in the MOU of the $1,300 that the city would only be kicking in a maximum of $1,100. We actually have letters of agreement that have been signed by 30 of the 35 civilian bargaining units as of today. That's unprecedented. In the last 2 weeks, we've gotten those agreements, and that's thanks to the work of the coalition, especially Victor Gordo, who's been instrumental in getting these done. But they have agreed to this particular cost structure.
Okay, my time is up. I don't know if it came up in the conversation or whether we can discuss it here, but I think in lots of ways, whether it's the unions that were negotiating this or whether it's us, that we could certainly find cost savings by singling out certain folks. And I know this is seen as a luxury one. For some, as we've heard from some of the cases, it's not a luxury. It's the only way that we can get particular treatments, and it seems discriminatory against them. But we are where we are today.
Thank you, Councilman Garcetti. We have Councilman Koretz and Councilman Rosendahl. Councilman Koretz.
Yeah, I do agree that some of these rates are high, and I want to be sure that we send a message that this is just for 1 year. I don't want to see us come back with a proposal that bears any resemblance to what we're providing. But what we're providing is considerably better than what we were presented with in Personnel Committee, because what we were originally presented was a plan that excluded people from that use doctors at UCLA and Cedars and have privileges at those hospitals. And we had a number of people testify that that was desperately needed by them, and we didn't have a plan that allowed them to pick up the extra cost but maintain this desperately needed service. And so we said, well, at least come back, give them some way to access that. And the PPO portion of it is actually pretty reasonable in terms of the monthly costs. A couple of the categories cost nothing. The HMO is a little more, and that's an option, but these are all options. These are pluses that we're adding to a narrow network that was really untenable for a lot of people. So we're making this work for people that testified in our committee that they desperately needed access to the doctors and hospitals that they were currently using, and this gives them an opportunity. $600 for the HMO family, that's pretty terrible, but if the choice is not to have that opportunity, we have to give people in that circumstance that choice. I don't want to see this back next year. I don't want to see us budget an unreasonably low amount for insurance and then say, cut it by cutting out people that need a particular service at two really critical hospitals. But for this time, I think this is a proposal that makes a lot of sense. It wouldn't have so many bargaining units jumping onto it if it didn't make a lot of sense. We're actually helping people save critical services for their own health. And this year, I think we should approve this. Next year, I don't want to see anything like this. We've got to give something that's equitable for everybody. But this is the best choice in this circumstance.
Councilman Rosendahl.
Yeah, I'm learning more than anything else at this moment. And to get personal, I have Medicare Part A only, and I have Anthem PPO, and I am at St. John's. And fortunately for me, in the moment in time that I'm in now, it covers everything. But it's basically because it's not an HMO, it's this. So basically, this is okay, but an HMO is in jeopardy. Is that the reality?
Medicare versus HMO.
I mean, yeah, it's Medicare versus HMO versus what I got with Anthem. What happened? All of a sudden, this is the HMO version, right?
So what is being proposed is that employees currently in the HMO will go to a narrow network, but we're also adding back a full network HMO, and employees will have an option to select that if they choose to. It's primarily going to affect employees who don't have whose doctors are not in the narrow network. They will be able to choose the full network HMO, but they will have to pay the additional cost.
And when did this happen, and what time frame are they giving the workers, and what is exactly the additional money they have to pay?
The additional money that they will have to pay if they choose the full network HMO is outlined on the first page of the report, and it gives the amounts that the total premium costs. So, for example, a family, the total premium is $1,792 a month. and the employee will have to pick up $615 a month, which is 34% of the premium cost.
Okay, that's new money. What are they paying already now?
If they're currently in the HMO plan, most employees are not paying.
They're not paying anything.
No.
So, an abrupt moment, which is right now in a very difficult period, as Mr. Koretz was saying, but he thinks this is reasonable in the context of the reality we're in. How did this happen? What time frame has been given? If people had to take a deep breath. I heard some of the people speaking, and it seemed compelling that there was no window of opportunity. Obviously, I did a $2,000 deductible as part of my initial strategy, and I've been moving in that direction with my particular plan. No lead time? Explain that.
Well, actually, the JLMBC's been working on this particular issue since probably January of 2012. The decision by the JLMBC, the original recommendation was made mid-July, and employees were sent notice regarding this proposed change late September. As we're gearing up for open enrollment, we also provided information to employees in their open enrollment materials. We've been offering webinars and actually been going out to the work site to give employees information about these changes.
Okay, so a full family went from what to what?
Before you answer, Rosa, last question. I'm going to push a button again.
Sure.
Please.
I think it's important to find out it didn't affect all employees, but for an employee and family who's in for example, the Kaiser plan, they have no premium costs. Employees that are in the Anthem HMO plan do not have premium costs. Employees in the PPO plan will be paying $316 a month, and employees that elect the full HMO will be paying $615 a month.
I see.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Councilor Englander and Councilmember Zion.
In looking to the new proposals that will be coming out, the new RFP, when is that scheduled to actually go out for the next cycle?
So we anticipate providing drafting a new RFP in December and presenting that to the JLMBC in December or January.
All right. I'd like to formalize, if I could, some instructions on that, so we don't come back here with the same issues, and give direction on that. And so as a verbal, I'd like to ask a motion to consider two separate RFPs. We can even ask that you bid either one for the PPO, one for the HMO on the narrow networks, either separately or they can bid them together. But that way, it sort of alleviates some of the concern of the ability then to negotiate with the top vendor. And so we can separate that and look at the cost benefits on both of them. I'd also like to explore the opportunity to manage the risk among benefit providers in a way that protects the city's costs. So by implementing a risk adjustment, incentives are created for plans to manage the populations, which then will have the highest need, and not penalize them for the increased costs associated with managing those folks. And the wellness program, perhaps we could look at for other cost beneficial programs, which then could be evaluated and we can use for evaluating the bids that have and that way we'll have a broad discussion with the market to understand exactly what the capabilities are that exist to identify those health risks and those engaged folks in health improvement activities. And so I'd like to ask that we consider those elements while in the new RFP and do so formally by instruction as a motion, if I can get a second on that.
A second, okay.
I would add, just to address Councilmember Engler's issues, certainly finance will probably need to maybe discuss with you or your staff just some finer points of kind of difficult to understand 100% right now. But the Personnel and Animal Welfare Committee report that was adopted and that is before Council did instruct the Personnel Department to brief the Council, particularly the PAW Committee, prior to the release of the RFP. So there'll be an opportunity for the Council to review the RFP before it goes out.
And I thank you for that. And that means that, will that be available publicly as well?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll have a transparent system.
Yes.
So we'd ask that these items be included in that. We'll give you those in writing as well. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Zion, for the second time.
Thank you. Is it true that we're increasing the rate on the PPO to subsidize the Kaiser? The folks that are going to the flex plan, the narrow or the wide network, is it true that we're increasing their rate to take care of those on the Kaiser plan?
No.
No, that's not accurate.
Well, give me the difference. Why is the rate so incredibly high for those plans versus the Kaiser plan?
The Kaiser plan has always been the benchmark, and it's in the MOUs. So whatever the Kaiser family rate, that's what the subsidy is based on.
Right, but are we increasing the rate for those that are going to go to $674? Is that rate at that level so we can subsidize the folks that are on Kaiser, whether it's the city subsidy or have a lower rate for them?
No.
Because obviously the rate that, if you want to go to UCLA or Cedars, you're going to pay an incredibly high rate. If you want to go to Kaiser, you want to go to the other plans, you won't be paying that. And the question is, are we increasing one to subsidize another?
No, I think the answer the best way I can, the rates are independent. I mean, Kaiser...
Say that again?
The rates are independent of each other. Kaiser submits a proposed rate structure that recovers their costs, and Blue Cross does the same. They're not... There's no connection between the two plans whatsoever other than the Kaiser... the subsidy that the city has in its MOUs that says we will pay the Kaiser family subsidy. That's the only relationship between...
Well, we said the employer pays some and the city pays some. There's a split between those two, correct? City subsidizes and the employer. We are the employer and the member, subscriber pays. They both pay.
In Kaiser, because of the language in the MOUs, we will subsidize at the Kaiser family rate. So anybody in any of the tiers in Kaiser, by definition, it pays nothing for premium.
Exactly. So the city, we are the city paying for that.
Yes.
So the question is, are we increasing the rate on the plan that covers UCLA and Cedars at a higher rate to help subsidize what we're providing for the Kaiser folks? Because obviously it's coming out of the city budget.
But the city does not determine the premium rates. The Blue Cross determines what the premium rates are going to be. So we didn't inflate those in order to
Okay, that's the question.
Kaiser.
Okay,
No.
so did we try to negotiate those rates down because they're obviously incredibly high? And I don't know if it's the same for all kinds of, does the PPL and the fire, do they have the same rate on their plan, or are we higher for this particular plan?
We're not higher. No.
Do we look at the PPL and do we look at the fire and say, okay, what's your rate for the plans? In other words, the Kaiser plans, the outside plans. Do we look at those rates and say, like, if you're a police officer, a firefighter, or an engineer with the city, or a personnel person with the personnel department, comparable family situation, are those rates the same for the similar service?
The rates are based on the experience. So if you have Blue Cross and you have a considerable amount of experience on the part of the participants...
You mean claims? Experience,
yes.
you mean claims?
Yes, and that's what the rates are based on. So if somebody is a member of Blue Cross HMO and there are a considerable number of claims, then the rates that they come in with are based on that claim history for that particular year.
Okay, so we have a plan for the municipal employees through the city. We have a plan for the police and fire. I understand Water and Power has another plan.
That's correct.
Have we ever looked at those plans and see if there's any kind of similarity or any kind of general dollar value? In other words, one's paying $100, one's paying $300. Have we ever done an analysis of that with the three different?
Yes, we have looked at those other plans. We do also do benchmark studies to see what other municipalities are paying. In general, our civilian flex costs on average are lower than our counterparts at fire and police. And it varies depending on how much the city subsidizes the premium amounts, and it also varies depending on the plan design. So the plan designs for our counterparts, they have more generous designs, meaning that they have lower copays than the city plan.
Okay, so what we have now before us is what we've got. We've negotiated The Joint Labor Management's come up with this. It's this or nothing. That's where we're at. So if someone's in that premium plan and they want to go, they can't afford the $600+, they can opt between now and mid-November to another plan.
That's correct.
There's no other options for them available at this time. But hopefully when we come back around with the RFP, we can come back with something a little more competitive and maybe bring them down a bit. I don't think the city's going to have more to subsidize, but somehow we have to work those out.
Councilmember Zion, 2 minutes over. Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay. Seeing no one else on the queue, Mr. Clerk, what's in front of us?
Pardon me, sir. One of the members would have to move the Personnel Department report, which has come in and is before them if they would care to do so.
Councilmember Koretz will move the personnel report. Is there a second? Do you have a second for Councilmember Koretz? So we don't have a second. The personnel report is in front of us. Councilmember Koretz has moved. He needs a second. Councilmember Krikorian will second. Councilmember Koretz is moving of the personnel report. That's in front of us at this moment. Councilman Clerk?
Yes, sir. So if after this vote it's adopted, the Personnel Committee report would be amended by the Personnel Department report.
Okay. Let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes, 2 noes.
Okay. So that concludes item 7. And Mr. Clerk, perhaps we can go to item 32?
Yes, sir. 32 and 34 are both agendized for closed session. Okay. It would be appropriate to take any cards that you may have on the matter at this time.
We do have a few speakers on item 32. We'll go with item 32 first. And as soon as we... Okay. So on item 32, we have a card submitted by Peter Weinberger, Cindy Sterrett, Lane Lawson. Please come on up to the microphone. This is for item 32. Cindy Sterrett, Peter Weinberger, and Lane Lawson. Please come on up. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Cindy Sterrett, here on behalf of Clear Channel Outdoor. Clear Channel Outdoor, like the city, is a defendant in the lawsuit that was brought by Summit. We're on the same side as the city. We're all preparing for an appellate hearing next week about agreements that this council approved in 2006, based on advice from the city attorney that those agreements were legally adopted. Clear Channel relied on those agreements. They provided for sign reduction and modernization. We've taken down over 100 signs since then. Those agreements are still in effect, and they provide for cooperation. Given that cooperation, we were sorry that the city attorney refused the court's invitation, given this July, to mediate this dispute through appellate mediation. Of course, Summit's consent to a legislative solution, if this council adopts a legislative solution, would not be required, and mediation is still possible. Cooperation is in the city's interest for many reasons, including why would the city support Summit's efforts to set new limits on your ability to enter into settlement agreements? Why would the city encourage Summit's efforts to allow third parties to challenge agreements 2 years later that this council enters into? Cooperation must be kept in mind. We know the city attorney is seeking to present oral argument next week, and we look forward to that cooperation. We appreciate your direction to explore legislative solutions that will identify criteria for digital signage and public benefits. Our goal is to cooperate with you in that process. We hope agreement can be reached quickly, so those provisions could be applied to the existing signs as well. There is still time for these solutions to be reached. Mediation can occur before a decision is issued in this case. The argument next week could be delayed, but in any event, please keep your options open. That is what's in the best interest of the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Council President, Council members. My name is Lane Lawson. I'm the Director of Public Affairs for Clear Channel Outdoors, Southern California Division. Clear Channel Outdoors is committed to working with the City of Los Angeles. With this in mind, we appreciate the action taken last week to advance the dialogue regarding outdoor advertising issues. Your leadership has provided a path forward on a solution that can benefit the local economy, businesses, and community groups. Clear Channel Outdoor believes that a legislative solution is in the best interest of everyone involved, and we look forward to working with the City Council, their staff, and other stakeholders as the process moves ahead. We also want to take this opportunity to remind you that when it comes to the Summit Media court case, we encourage the City Council to engage in an open and detailed discussion with the City Attorney to make sure that any actions taken don't put the City at greater risk. Once again, we appreciate the working relationship that we have with the City of Los Angeles and look forward to continuing down that path. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have Phil Reck, come on up. Then Dennis Hathaway.
Thank you, Councilman. My law firm represents Summit Media, and we're pleased to see that the Council's going to go into a closed session discussion with the City Attorney about this appeal. And we hope that you'll get a full briefing on the appeal, including how and when the Court of Appeal is likely to rule. What we think you'll hear is that a ruling should come out in about the next 3 months. And I think you'll also hear that most observers think the Court of Appeal is going to agree with the trial court and find the settlement agreements to be illegal and void. And we at Summit additionally believe the trial court is going to find the 100 digital signs that are currently operating similarly to be illegal and void. Now, it's clear to us that CBS and Clear Channel believe the same thing. That's why they are here lobbying so hard for you to come up with what they call a legislative solution. But while this court ruling is going to be very bad for CBS and Clear Channel, in our view, it is the best thing imaginable for the City Council. So long as the settlement agreements remain in place, so long as CBS and Clear Channel are allowed to continue to operate these 100 digital boards, notwithstanding the concerns of the neighbors, notwithstanding the unfairness that they pose vis-a-vis their competitors, the City Council will never be able to develop a fair and balanced policy, one that won't be subject to another endless cycle of litigation. While CBS and Clear Channel are willing to cut virtually any deal right now to save those 100 signs, the City Council's leverage and its ability to insist on a fair deal will be infinitely greater if you wait for that appellate court ruling. So we encourage the Council to allow the appeals court process to run its course. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Dennis Hathaway.
Good afternoon, Councilman. Dennis Hathaway, President of the Coalition to Ban Billboard Blight. I know you've all read the letters by Clear Channel sent to the appeals court, to the City Attorney, and to these council offices, referring to a settlement offer having been made and making it completely clear that such a settlement is intended to moot the Summit Media litigation and permanently legalize the 100 digital billboards now in operation. We respectfully ask this council not to engage in any settlement discussions until after the appeals court rules. In 2007, our organization filed an ex parte motion in Superior Court to attempt to challenge the lawsuit settlement that was passed by the City Council in 2006. We failed in that on the issue of standing, but when Summit Media came along and filed a lawsuit, for whatever their motives were, this was a way that we believe this was a way that we would get our day in court and a final adjudication of the legality of those billboards. Our efforts to protect the city's visual environment have been formally supported in the past by more than 60 neighborhood councils and community groups, including a significant number outside the city's west side, such as the Sunland-Tahunga Neighborhood Council, the Studio City Neighborhood Council, the Sun Valley Area Neighborhood Council, the West Hills Neighborhood Council, the Atwater Village Neighborhood Council, the Mount Washington Homeowners Alliance, just to name some. I believe most of these groups might be willing to be part of a discussion about how the city can get rid of billboard blight and gain some revenue by allowing a specific number of digital billboards in specific locations with regulations as to hours of operation, proximity to residences, and brightness, and all those things that are negatively impacting people. That's a critically important element for people who have suffered negative impacts for the past 5 years, and it's the least they deserve.
Thank you, Mr. Hathaway. Peter Weinberger. Okay, Peter Weinberger's not here. Okay, if I can ask the Sergeant of Arms to help us clear the chamber so we can enter into closed session. I appreciate that very much. Okay, we back to open session? Mr. City Attorney?
Yes. Just for the record, on item 32, there should be the California Court of Appeal appellate number, case number also referenced, B220198.
Okay. So that takes care of item 32. What's next on the agenda?
Mr. President, Council has motions for posting and referral.
Been posted and referred?
The desk is clear.
Okay, members, any announcements? Councilor Perry.
Announcements. First, tomorrow, Thursday, October 25th, 10 a.m., the dedication of the naming of 27th Street and Central after Dr. Bassett H. Brown. And this was one of the dean of our School of Politics within the African American community, Congressman Mervyn Dimely. This was one of the last actions that he directed me to take before he was taken from us too soon, and we do this in his memory. It should be a very joyous occasion. And also Monday, October the 29th, 6 p.m., West Angeles Villas at 6030 Crenshaw Boulevard, seminar on safeguarding your wallet, and how you can learn to save money on your telecom bill, and it's a clinic. Bring your cell phone and your landline phone bills, and you will be shown how to reduce your monthly costs.
Okay, any announcements? Councilor Englander, then Councilor Kretz.
Tomorrow at 9 a.m., together with the Board of Public Works and Bureau of Sanitation, we're actually opening a new facility in my district at the old closed Fire Station 87. It's actually called the Nicole Burnson Safe Center, where you'll be able to stop and drop off household hazardous chemicals and batteries and flashlight and electronics, e-waste, and Sharpies and old medication, etc. So it's very exciting. Nicole has worked tirelessly on this for many years, and it is being named in her honor, the Nicole Burnson Safe Center.
Congratulations. Great job.
Yes.
Named after her dad, Councilmember Hal Burnson.
There is. We have a pocket park.
Okay.
Named after
Mike, make sure you make respect for your dad, a great man.
Okay. Councilor Koretz.
Yes, we already adjourned in memory of George McGovern, so I guess this would be under an announcement. But it was suggested to me that since today is Food Day, it would be appropriate to acknowledge that in addition to the things that he's known for, like fighting the Vietnam War and running against Richard Nixon, what he's not as acknowledged for and should be is that he founded Food for Peace and ran it for several years. He helped expand the food stamp program and the school lunch programs and worked for 30 years to help alleviate hunger. And so on this Food Day, it would be appropriate to acknowledge that as well.
Thank you, sir. I believe that concludes announcements. Now adjourning motions. Councilor Perry.
I would like to adjourn in memory of the Los Angeles Fire Department's first African American Assistant Fire Chief, Paul Orduna. Mr. Orduna's career with the Los Angeles Fire Department spanned over 33 years during a tumultuous time in race relations in Los Angeles. He was a veteran of the United States Air Force. He joined the fire department in 1957 and as a firefighter, and then was promoted to Captain 1, supervising some of the busiest fire companies in the city. In 1978, Mr. Orduna was promoted to the position of Captain 2 and was transferred to the Community Liaison Office, becoming the department's Affirmative Action Officer and Equal Employment Opportunity Coordinator. In 1980, he earned the rank of battalion chief and became only the second African American battalion chief in the history of the fire department. In 1986, after going back to school to receive his bachelor's degree, he became the first African American fire chief. He is survived by his daughter Gloria O'Quinn, two grandsons Michael and Charles, sister Amelia Donaldson, sisters-in-law Doris, Florence, and Caldonia, and a host of relatives and friends. He will be remembered for his accomplishments and service to all people of Los Angeles.
Thank you, Councilor Perry. Any adjourning motions? Councilor Buscaino.
Thank you, sir. Colleagues, today I'd like to adjourn in memory of Ron Fujikawa, a respected attorney and a board member of the Los Angeles Fire Department Scholarship Fund. Ron was born on April 6, 1948 in Mount Vernon, Missouri. His family would later relocate to Long Beach, California, where Ron attended Wilson High School. Following high school, he attended Stanford University for undergrad work and law school. Ron joined the law firm of Gibson Dunn in Los Angeles, established his own firm, Kinsella, Botch, Fujikawa, and Towle, and became a partner of Greenberg Gluster. In addition to his work on the board of Los Angeles Fire Department Scholarship Fund, Ron served as a longtime member of the president of the Wildwood School Board of Trustees. Ron was an avid golfer and a beloved member of the LA Country Club. Services will be held in his honor this Friday, October 26th, at the Lake Shrine Temple in Pacific Palisades at 11 a.m. Ron Fujikawa, may he rest in peace.
Thank you. No other adjourning motions? Thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned.